Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to Crime and Sports early and ad-free right now. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
In the depths of an Atlanta forest, a clash between activists and authorities ends in tragedy. I'm Matthew Scher, and on my new podcast, We Came to the Forest, we expose the hidden truths behind a shootout that left one activist dead and countless lives forever changed. Binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest ad-free on Wondery Plus.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Crime and Sports.
Yay!
Yay indeed, Jimmy, yay indeed. My name is James Petrogallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jimmy Wissman.
Thank you, folks, so much for joining us on another crazy episode today. And today it's especially crazy because it's an old-timey episode. It's one of the old-timiest of the old-timey that we've ever done. And it's not just an old-timey episode. It's one of the craziest characters in the history of sports who happened to come from an old-timey era. It's so weird. He invented a punch style. It's really crazy. You'll see. There is more brain damage in this episode than in anything we've ever covered before.
Terrific.
This guy fought 25-round fights. Put it that
what?
way. Yeah.
Why would they do that?
Because that's what they did back then. And that was when they barely were. He fought some bare knuckle fights. It's crazy. We'll talk about it. Insane. We'll get into this. Before we do, though, just want to thank you for everything. We do appreciate it. If you are listening and love the show, please review on whatever platform you're listening on. If you have not done it yet, 5 stars is wonderful and helps the show out immensely. So thank you. Right. Also, head over to shutupandgivememurder.com to get your tickets for everything. Yeah. Tickets for all. Tickets for, number one, for Small Town Murder Live. We are in Tampa the 23rd and 24th of September, the 23rd of September for 2 shows. Right. Then we're in Orlando on the 24th for 2 shows at the Improv in both places there. Get your tickets.
And then we'll drop dead after that.
And then we'll drop dead on Sunday. And that's what we do. And then for the virtual live show, October the 27th, it's a Small Town Murder Halloween.
Yes.
So come join us for Halloween. It's available for 7 days after that, and you can watch it as many times as you want, whenever you want. It's a good time. That is shutupandgivememurder.com or go to moment.co/smalltownmurder. Either one of those, get your tickets. Join us just like a live show, except we set it up all the same. You get all the visuals, all the jokes, except you're in your living room. It's a party. Let's have a good time. Let's do that. That's a lot of fun. Patreon.com/crime and sports is where you get all the bonus stuff.
Oh, my God.
Every bit of bonus stuff. Anybody $5 or above, you're going to get not only the whole back catalog of, there's over 100 episodes. There's so many Patreon episodes to binge on, but you're going to get 2 new episodes every other week. You're going to get a Crime and Sports and a Small Town Murder, and you get access to it all. This week, what you're going to get is we are going to finish out the Sex Scandals trilogy here. Sex Scandals Part 3, finish off the Duke list, and also get to the English guy with the poetry and dated his sister-in-law and all that stuff. That's hilarious.
Never visit Shooters again.
Never go to Shooters there in North Carolina at all. You don't want to do that. And then for Small Town Murder, we're going to talk about something very near and dear and very interesting. We're going to talk about serial killers and how there was a lot of serial killers that happened to be in the mafia. And it's just kind of kismet that you would be a serial killer that lusts for blood and then be in a profession that you're just makes you more highly touted the better you are at killing people. It's amazing. So every once in a while, here and there, not most of them, just a few here and there where it just all came together. And we're going to talk about those serial killing mafiosi guys, and it'll be a lot of fun. Patreon.com/crime and sports is where you get all of that. And you'll get a shout out at the end of the show, of course.
Oh, you bet.
Where Jimmy will try desperately to get your name correct while mispronouncing it. So that's a lot of fun. That said, let's get to it because it's a lot of show. Right. We got to go back so far in time that it's going to take a while to get in the time machine and get back there.
All right.
Let's do this, everybody. We are going to talk about Norman Selby.
Yeah.
Never heard of Norman Selby, I'm sure.
No.
Most people haven't because that's not the name he was famous under.
No?
He is famous as Charles Kid McCoy. That's his name.
Still no.
You know some stuff about him that you don't even know you know. That's the funny part. Yeah, it's one of those guys where you're like, oh, that's that guy? Okay. That's where that came from. He's also known as the Corkscrew Kid.
Oh.
Because he doesn't have a duck dick. Don't worry. It's not what it is. It is that he invented a punching style, quote, invented, I should say. I'm sure people are doing it, but he brought it into boxing, a punching style that everybody on earth does now, whereas just
it's the twist.
As you're jabbing, you twist your fist and corkscrew. Nobody did that before.
How did he not think of the McTwist? How did he not patent that? The
you know
McTwist.
What? Mike McGill is very lucky he didn't. Mike McGill's like, thank God. Otherwise,
Mike McGill would have had to call his trick the corkscrew.
It would have been the Corkscrew Kid. It would have been a totally different career for him, I feel like. Wouldn't have worked as well. All those kids
How did he not get that?
Early 90s. The Corkscrew Kid. Well, he didn't nickname himself well, he nicknamed himself Kid, though. We'll talk about it. He's born... I think this might be our earliest. There's someone that was in the ballpark, but October 13th, either 1872 or 1873. We're not sure.
Fantastic.
A lot of places say 1873, but then there's proof of 1872 as well. We don't know.
Who gives a shit?
It doesn't matter. He would be 150 years old today. So literally, he's
or 149.
Yeah, or we don't know. So it doesn't matter. So
unbelievable.
He's born in Moscow, Indiana. Which, there's a Moscow in Indiana. I didn't know if you knew that.
There?
Well, I mean, there's a Paris, Texas, so I guess anything's possible, right?
Isn't there there's a Moscow somewhere?
Pennsylvania.
Idaho.
Pennsylvania's got a
Yeah.
Moscow. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Yeah, it's just
All right.
they ran out of shit to name things back in the day. Let's just name it after other cities. Okay.
I don't think they ran out of shit to name it after that, or just they didn't run out of different names. They just ran out of ideas. That's all. It's just
how many more
creativity is exhausted.
We can't name any more shit after George Washington. We're getting shit's getting old. So now they grew up out there. This is a rural farming area, and then his family moved to Indianapolis when he was a small child. His dad was an Episcopal minister.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very strict household.
Really?
Yeah, he's a minister. I mean, it's very straight-laced. He's got 4 brothers and sisters, 3 sisters and a brother. Mm-hmm. He's the second to youngest. He's got Georgia, Alice, and Grace are his sisters, and his brother's name is Homer.
Okay.
So Homer Selby there. Grace, his sister Grace, was married to Charles Thomas Henshaw, who I guess was a rich guy. He was a rich man.
Henshaw sounds familiar.
And their daughter turned out to be an actress named Barbara Jo Allen, who worked a lot in Hollywood for years and years and years. She died in 1974, but she worked for the beginning of television and movies. She was in a lot of shit. So, so that's interesting. Now, Norman, he is at this age. Little Normie runs away at 13.
Yeah.
This we're talking, it's 1885 or 6. We don't know. So
sometime around there.
Either way, this is like Deadwood time. Think of this is like Wyatt Earp times. Tombstone took place in 1881, I believe.
I think that's true.
So
maybe earlier. Because
1879. It was all around.
You might
that
be
era,
right because
in the 1880s.
Earp died in the fucking 1900s, like
1920s.
late in them.
Yeah, like 1930s. I think he died in or some shit.
I think it was further than that.
Maybe I don't know.
Tom Mix was a movie star, and he knew him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I don't know when I want to say he died in like 1935, but I honestly don't know. But he goes. This is Old West times. I mean, this is a time where you ran away from home. You'd hop on a freighter. That's what people did. And you'd go to some other city and you'd, I don't know, sell newspapers if you're 13. You join, kids would join the circus back then. I mean, this is the times when this fucking started. This is a very odd shit. Well, he ran away and just began to ride the freight trains. He's a little hobo. That's what he was.
13-year-old on fucking boxcars.
On boxcars, little boxcar Norman here. Legend has it that he developed his fighting skills, quote, beating up hobos on the rails. That's what they said.
Generally, a hobo's drunk, so that's not really a fighting chance.
Well, if you're 13, though, and some adult hobo's coming at you.
A drunk adult fighting a 13-year-old.
That's about even.
I don't know who I'd give the edge to.
It's about even, It depends on who the adult and who the kid is.
Right.
The thing about him also is he's he's not an imposing looking guy. He ends up at his height, he's 5'10", and he's always thought of as like a sick. People call him sickly all the time. They say he doesn't look like a fighter.
That's not.
No,
it's not a good description
sickly
for your heavyweight boxer or any boxer.
He starts out as like a middleweight, but eventually he'll move up to heavyweight. And he's like the smallest guy, and he's beating the shit out of people who are 240 pounds. It's the weirdest thing.
A sickly heavyweight.
But he's like, he did it on purpose, though. That's what he'd do it on purpose because he wanted the opponents to underestimate him. As we'll talk about, he did all these tricks. Like, there's a lot of tricks that you do, like as a kid in the schoolyard to fuck with your friends that he made popular. Did them in the ring, like for real. Like it's. Hey, look over there. It's Elvis. And then he punched the guy. He did shit like that. For real. And back then, they were like, where is he? And then they get punched in the face because they didn't know it was a trick yet. Because he
pantsing somebody.
He would tell them their trunks are falling down. They'd look down and he'd fucking wail them. Shit like that. Because back then, you'd believe somebody. Oh, thank you.
Hey, your dick's out.
Thank you, good sir. You're going to pull your trunks up. You drop your hands and he fucking wails you one. And that's legal. I mean, it's shitty, but he didn't care. Yeah, we'll talk about it later. One time he put makeup on to make himself look sickly so his opponent would underestimate him. Told him he was dying. It's crazy. He's so full of shit, this guy. It's amazing. He's like the Mickey Dora of boxing, if you remember the Mickey Dora episode from back in the day. He's the Mickey Dora of boxing. He's
a fraud of a champion.
He never defends belts either. He'll win in a weight class, he'll win the title, and then he'll just move up a weight class. He never defends his title.
Oh, shit.
It's so weird. And half of his fights are fixed, I believe, as well as we'll get into, which back then, why wouldn't you fix it? There's no way to prove it. There's no tape of it. Why wouldn't you fix it? You'd be dumb not to.
Right.
What if it's a bad fight? Then they won't come back. Let's make it a good fight. You know what I mean? Same scenario as wrestling.
Sure.
He ends up at 18. He decides he wants to box. So it's either 1890 or 1891. We're not sure.
Somewhere around there.
He starts boxing. He changes his name to Charles McCoy. Now, that's for boxing. It's like a stage name. And he'll do a bunch of acting in silent films later on. So, he knows Charlie Chaplin. He's buddies. Oh. Yeah, this guy, I'm telling you, this guy is in so much shit that's wild that we don't know about him more. He said that he acquired the name Charles McCoy from a number, quote unquote, in a show, like a play, a musical number, featuring the exploits of safecrackers Kid McCoy and Spike Hennessy. Those are the characters' names.
Yeah.
So he was Charles Kid McCoy, he called himself. There's other different legends of it as well. The other one is that somewhere between 14, 15, 16 years old, he and two other boys ran away they were on a train. They were all runaways. They were on a train going to Cincinnati, and police officers saw them at the Cincinnati station because their fathers had reported them missing, the other two boys, and told them who he was with. And they said, "Are you Norman Selby?" And he said, "I'm Charlie McCoy." And he said the night before he had seen a sign, McCoy Station, through the train window, and it just stuck in his head, and that's what popped out. He did like a Kaiser Sose. Like,
Charlie, McCoy.
He just did a Kaiser Sose. It was just on the wall. He was like, McCoy, Charlie. So he starts boxing. He's trained by a guy named Jack Rush is his name. And Jack Rush was apparently a real famous guy in the sports boxing world here. He used to, and I guess, so McCoy looked up to him here, young Kid McCoy, and he's like a street urchin. He's got no fucking money. He's a runaway. He's a 13-year-old runaway, so by the time he's 17, he's scraggly.
A little street trash.
Yeah, so he would follow this guy around, Jack Rush, and just, ask him to he just looked up to him like, hey, help me out. Do something for me here. You know what I mean? So, because I guess this guy had, would like visit with boxers would come talk to him and visit him. So it's a cool thing for a kid to hang around, see famous people and shit like that.
And he's got information that you want.
Yeah. Now, later on, people will say of Kid McCoy, quote, "No one could understand how a slender-built lad like McCoy could bowl over the giants." Okay. He beat the shit out of people much bigger than him. He's just fascinating. Then again, they probably weren't fighting boxcar hobos when they were 13. That's it's a difference. I mean, that hardens you. They said, here's from a newspaper in like 1903, quote, "The son of an Episcopal minister, Norman Selby, for that is Kid McCoy's real name, in his street clothes looked anything but a prize fighter, and in fighting togs in the ring didn't look much better." So there you go.
And didn't look much better.
Didn't look much better. So his first fight is in 1891, in June of 1891, and we'll talk about how close his first and second fights are together. But it's so he's either 18 or 19. We're not sure.
Yeah.
Here he says his first fight was for $5 or $10. He's not sure.
Wow.
So that's what he made. Now this was against. He has a bunch. See, his record you can't take. We're not even going to keep track of his record. At the end, I'll give you kind of the ballpark of it because there is such disparaging numbers on either side.
Yeah.
Some people say he fought 100 fights. Some say it was 110. Some say it was 115 because some were sanctioned, some weren't. Yeah. Some were farces.
And we'll never know because we don't know shit.
And there's no footage of them. They happened in 1895. Like there's no way to tell. So they said the first one on record is against Pete Jenkins in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1891. He said that I guess McCoy was stopping in St. Paul to wash dishes there. Yeah. That's how he ended up in St. Paul. He stopped on his rail deal to make a little money washing some dishes. He joined the Baptist church, not because he was, religious, because you had to be a member of the Baptist church to join the YMCA in town. And the YMCA had the only sports facilities. So they had the only gymnasium in town. So he joined the church to do that. And his first fight is against a guy named Peter Jenkins, who is also debuting. And we'll go through the fights very quickly because none of this shit matters. Trust me.
Also a member of the church.
Also, I'm sure Peter Jenkins had to be a member of the church. His first 5 fights are against people making their boxing debuts. Yeah. So we'll do them kind of 5 at a time. And debut here. This fight goes 4 rounds and he wins on points. It's an exhibition, 4-rounder here. So 4 days later, on June 6th, 18. Oh, no, I'm sorry. A year goes by. He doesn't box for another year. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's great. So stays put?
I know. This is in Indianapolis he's going to box. I guess he fought that fight and then trained seriously for a year. I guess he just stopped off because he got kind of boxing on a whim, and then he went and trained with Jack Rush seriously after that. Okay. So he ends up the next year in June 6th, 1892, fights Billy Barlow, who's making his debut. It goes all 6 rounds, and he wins. Wins on points. Next, he fights Bob Lewis, who's making his debut. None of these guys have nicknames either.
No.
So it's just that a lot of these guys finish their career 0-1, 0-2, shit like that. And these are not guys who stuck around. That's why I feel like nowadays when they have a fighter they think is half decent, they set him up against a bunch of tomato cans to get his record good.
Yeah.
Imagine what they did back then when there was really no oversight of it. There's the newspaper. That's it. There's not a bunch of there's no internet picking it apart. There's no footage of these fights going, well, that guy obviously doesn't belong in the ring with him. That's a farce. That doesn't exist. So
and that also back then, probably before they realized this is going to fucking kill somebody, they probably were like, well, if he's any good, he should fight somebody that's good.
Yeah, they did that too. Yeah. But back then I think a lot of these were either fixed or set up against, so the guy's going to win type of thing.
Right.
So he knocks Bob Lewis out in the first round.
Wow.
Next up, Herbert Hale. Okay. Billy Barlow, Herbert Hale. Only alliterative opponents I'll take. I'm not taking on any others.
I need the names to sound great together.
I want them to sound cool. Yeah. So Herbert the Hailstorm, I'm calling him here. This is in Columbus. Don't know what state Columbus something. This goes all 8 rounds.
Wow.
And it's a draw on points. So he's like 3-0-1 at this point, sort of. Then he fights Jim Dixon in January of 1893 in Hot Springs, maybe Arkansas. I don't know.
Probably.
Knocks him out in the 5th round. So he's like 4-0-1. He would tell everyone he doesn't train. That's what I mean. Part of his approach was, look at me. I'm not even strong. I don't even
Clearly
train.
I'm not trying.
I don't even train. You could beat me up really easily. That's part of his approach.
He treated boxing like hipsters used to treat comedy.
Yeah, I'm not trying.
I'm not even trying.
Just up here. I'm just telling stories. I don't even have jokes.
This is just who I am.
I didn't even write this. This is just what I did at Taco Bell last night. Yeah. That didn't work.
My sweater's more interesting than I am.
Isn't my sweater nice? Anyway.
It's 112 outside, sir.
Yeah. Oh, that used to drive me nuts. It's $112. You got a sweater on talking about fucking nothing.
You got a sweater your mom made you, and you're making jokes about it. That's all you got?
That's what you got. I got my sweater chunk. This is what I got. Then I go into my sweater chunk. Oh, my God. So he would claim not to train, and you would think after a few fights, people would get the ruse and be like, he looks like shit, but watch out for him type of thing. Yeah. But nobody ever did, because back then pictures were expensive. There wasn't a lot of pictures of guys. They didn't know. They didn't see him. They didn't watch the tapes on him.
And they took a while to develop.
Yeah. And things took a long while to come around. So, but in reality, he would hide out outside on a farm outside of Saratoga, New York, and train his ass off. But he would do it outside of everybody. He wouldn't do it where anybody else would do it. So he could say, I don't really train. And then apparently he would train a lot. Here's a newspaper article here. I'll just read this. His trainers are men who follow instructions and do not advise. Oh. This is how Kid is, man. This is when he's 20. This is so weird.
He just tells them, do this, make me do this, and they do it?
He just says, yeah, you just count what I tell you to count, and I know what I need to do to get ready, basically. Wow. He said Charles Kid McCoy knows what's best for him, and he knows better than any other man on earth, and further, has sufficient self-control to do the things he knows he should do without having some, I can't tell what that is, something to bolster him up or keep him in check. Mm-hmm. The routine is simple. At 10 o'clock in the company with one man, generally Doc Fine, he starts for Long Branch. He is clothed in heavy underclothing, trousers, sweater, jacket, and cap. His shoes are heavy and roomy. Starting out at a good run, not a jog, he covers the distances to Long Branch and back in a little less than 2 hours. It is 10 good, weary, and of late muddy miles, but the time seldom varies. Returning, he's rubbed down, takes a shower, and is dried off. He then dresses leisurely, and an hour later has dinner. The food is plain, but exceedingly well cooked and wholesome. Okay. And something does it full justice. I don't know what that is. Oh, McCoy does it full justice. I guess he eats all of it.
Eats the whole thing.
Nothing more is done until 8:30 when he goes into the gymnasium and gets into the ring costume and shoes and starts at the bag. This he punches steadily with either hand and in every position possible until in a profuse perspiration. Then comes a rest. And then he starts at the heavy bag. After a time, at this, he takes dumbbells and works for 15 minutes at footwork and general dumbbell exercises. Then comes a saltwater shower and a rub down. The afternoon work is about an even hour. So
he's working all day at this.
Yeah, that's what you do. So he basically, though, that's his routine that he invented. I don't know if other guys were doing that or not, but that's pretty much what guys do now to train.
Yeah, sure
If you mix in sparring into that,
right?
Like he gets up and does road work in heavy clothes. Yep. You ever watch Rocky? What does Rocky do?
He's heavy clothes and big shoes.
Yeah, running in the fucking streets.
Yeah, in his work boots.
Making it hard, causing a sweat. It's I mean, that's very interesting. That's very modern of him. So that and the punch style, like he was kind of a modern guy, which is weird. Next up, he fights Jim Connors, who's also a debuting guy here. Knocks him out in 3 rounds.
Okay.
Next up in, this is 2 weeks later in 1893, February of 1893, he fights unknown.
Somebody.
They don't know who it is. It's
There's
so
a body
far.
in the ring.
It's 130 years ago. I guess we'll give him a pass on
on
Boxer Rec not knowing. Apparently, this is in Milan, Italy, though. So he goes all the way over there. Knocks him out in 2 rounds, though. So there you go. Yeah, some guinea he knocked out.
Knocked out some
I don't
Italian
know. Some fucking grease ball. Can I put that in the papers? No? All right, never mind. So Frank LaMode, he fights 10 days later on February 22nd, 1893, a debuting Frank LaMode in New Orleans. He knocks him out in 3 rounds.
It's the guy that invented putting ice cream next to pie.
He did. A la that guy. That's what his name is Frank Al LaMode. He goes by Al. Frank's only his boxing name, and it's He opened up a small diner when he was done boxing. Their specialty was pie and ice cream.
Knocked the ice cream out of him.
It was called Alamodes. That's what it was. It's not Alamode. It's Alamode. Alamodes. People just fucked it up over time. It got confused.
There's a lot of inventors in this story.
A lot of people really. Well, when you think about it, a lot of shit was invented back then. I mean, this is
sure was.
People are getting electricity and plumbing in their houses. The
world was taking shape.
It was. Well, when you don't have to think about, oh boy, I need to walk into the backyard and hope there's no wolves while I shit. You can concentrate on inventing things then, you know? Your mind is free to think about how to better shit and come up with medicines and technology. It's fucking crazy. So, Lamode, he beats 3 rounds here. Next up, Frank Murray. He's on the beating up guys named Frank tour in May of 1893. It's weird saying 18 anything in this show.
So bizarre.
This is another debut. He's fought nobody who has any fighting experience besides him so far.
Yeah.
All debuting guys, like his first 10 fights. Knocks this guy out in 2 rounds.
Okay.
Next up, July of 1893, July 6th, he fights Charles Bull McCarthy.
Oh, we got a nickname.
Bull. Now, keep in mind, he's fighting at 130 pounds right now.
Yeah.
He'll later be a heavyweight.
Jesus.
Floyd Mayweather was boxing at 130 pounds back in the day. Imagine if Floyd was like, I'm stepping up to heavyweight. Like, imagine
fighting Tyson Fury.
Like 6 years ago, he's like, I want to fight Klitschko. I just want to. Right. I don't know why. People would have said, are you out of your fucking mind, you crazy son of a bitch? He's
going to explode you.
Yeah, he's going to kill you. You can't hurt him.
You can try your best to block those. Those are coming in.
I mean, if you wanted to, I'm sure Floyd could run and never get hit in the whole fight, probably. But he wouldn't hit him either. That's the thing. Oh,
right.
Nobody's 6'5", 220 is catching Floyd around that ring if he doesn't want him to. He'll just duck and bob and weave and fucking.
I don't know. He's
cover.
Those cinder blocks are coming fast and furious.
Yeah, and by the time they get there, Floyd's on the other side of the ring. You can't hit that fucking guy.
I don't think Floyd could do it today.
No, it's bad.
Either of them.
No, it's fucking bad.
I think both the Klitschko's. What? Why did I just eat their name?
I don't know. You just swallowed their name. You had some goulash in your mouth when you ate that.
They've got a thick name. Their name's as thick as their fucking head.
You had 10 rubles worth of goulash in your mouth, I think, was the problem. So he fights Bull McCarthy, who's 6'5" and 1. He actually has some fights.
Yeah.
This is at the Athletic Ballpark in Muncie.
Okay.
By the way, reading all these, reading like articles in the newspaper back then, I loved seeing like the baseball stuff because the teams did, like 3 teams had names that are the same now. It was all, they called them the New York Topsiders at one point. I'm like, the Topsiders?
Who the fuck is that?
I know they called them the Highlanders for a while, but the Topsiders? That I didn't know about.
Is that the same team?
Yeah, I think it's the same team.
Yeah.
I think that's the Yankee franchise because it would make sense if they played in the Bronx. It would be the top of the city. So the Topsider
okay.
would probably be that's what it was. That's why they're the Highlanders because the Bronx is north of Manhattan. So I would imagine. So anyway, he knocks out Bull in 3 rounds. So the kid's making a run for himself here. Next up in July 23rd, 1893, he fights Ike Boone. Who sounds like he just got back from the Old West. He was like a trapper.
That is a man that wears leather.
These are tough people, by the way.
Oh, God.
The people who boxed back then, this isn't like now. The gloves aren't. These are barely gloves. Some of these fights, there are no gloves, by the way, in some of these fights. So it's fucking crazy. These guys are beating the shit out of each other. The ref isn't stopping it if somebody's woozy. None of that shit goes on.
There's no showmanship from the fighters. It was walk out there and punch.
People were still fighting in like the old put up your Dukes Irish style still back then, literally where they put their hands straight up in front of them. And that's some people were still fighting like that.
Where they roll the fists together.
Yeah. Whereas this guy comes in with the corkscrew deal and it's a modern punch and he's a different kind of guy.
He's a fighter, not a pugilist.
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody calls him he's always called the clever fighter. Everybody says the clever Kid McCoy. He tricks people. He's like Bugs Bunny is what he is. He fights like, where do you hear his tricks? He fights like Bugs. At one point, there's thumbtacks involved. I shit you not. Not in his gloves either, because people have done that. Ike Boone, this is in Daleville, maybe Alabama, because I know we did an episode of Small Town Murder in Daleville, Alabama.
Okay.
This is Apparently, the referee stops the fight after 19 rounds.
Jesus Christ.
It's a 25-round fight. The ref stop. Oh, no, it's a finish fight. No rounds. This is a fight to the finish.
A what fight?
It's called a finish fight back then. That means they
fight till somebody dies.
Fight till someone wins or dies. Either way, it doesn't matter.
Holy shit.
But it's a fight to the finish is what it was. No rounds. There's rounds, but they never end. They just go on forever. The referee finally stopped the bout after 19 rounds and declared it a draw.
That means they just couldn't come out.
Nobody could fucking do anything.
They had no more gas to throw another punch.
No, 19 rounds? Jesus Christ.
I can't imagine.
So the crazy part is he fights a week later.
He's not even rested yet.
7 days after fighting 19 rounds, he's like, I'm good for another match.
What is that? If he went to sleep after that fight, then he woke up and was like, let's fight now.
Let's fight again.
You just had to have slept for an entire week.
How crazy is that, dude?
That's too fast.
He fights Dick Harris, who's debuting. It feels like a tomato can, though, because he knocks him out in a round. So,
a few miles from the glass spires of Midtown Atlanta lies the South River Forest. In 2021 and 2022, the woods became a home to activists from all over the country who gathered to stop the nearby construction of a massive new police training facility, nicknamed Cop City.
At approximately 9 o'clock this morning, as law enforcement was moving through various sectors of the property, an individual, without warning, shot a Georgia State Patrol trooper.
This is We Came to the Forest, a story about resistance.
The abolitionist mission isn't done until every prison is empty and shut down.
Love and fellowship.
It was probably the happiest I've ever been in my life.
And the lengths we'll go to protect the things we hold closest to our hearts. Follow We Came to the Forest on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.
He was hip-hop's biggest mogul, the man who redefined fame, fortune, and the music industry.
The first male rapper to be honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Sean Diddy Combs.
Diddy built an empire and lived a life most people only dream about.
Everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party, so.
Yeah, that's what's up.
But just as quickly as his empire rose, it came crashing down.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution.
I was up. I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. I'm disgusted. I'm so sorry.
Until you're wearing an orange jumpsuit, it's not real. Now it's real.
From his meteoric rise to his shocking fall from grace, from law and crime, this is the rise and fall of Diddy. Listen to the rise and fall of Diddy exclusively with Wondery Plus.
Okay. I think he was a nobody. So then 2 weeks later, he's fighting again. August 15th, 1893, fights Frank Merritt and knocks him out at Parnell Hall in Indianapolis in 2 rounds as well.
Were 85% of the men named Frank back then?
Frank, Dick, George. You're going to find a lot of those. Jim. Frank, Dick, George, Jim, Billy, because there's a ton of Williams back then too. So you're going to find a lot of, but they're all the same fucking name though. Well, the next few guys are George, John, Pat, Jim, Billy, Jim.
What the fuck?
And then there's also another one that I won't tell you about because it's hilarious. Okay. So Dickie Harris, he beat up 1 round. He beat Frank Merritt in 2 rounds. Next up, George Bennett. On September 26th, 1893. He's debuting as well. This is in Akron, Ohio. The referee was forced to stop the bout after 8 rounds and declare it a draw. I don't know why they were forced to stop it. There's no, I can't tell. But McCoy, they said, had the advantage in the match. He was ahead, but the ref called it a draw.
Yeah, but if a ref stops a fight and a man's up in the points, that's your winner, isn't it? Why would they do that?
The ref declared it a draw. So that also might be the ref got paid by people to to call it a draw because that's how the gambling was. They didn't like how the odds were split, so they'd rather take a draw in return.
So they got to make it push.
See what I'm saying? So that back then, most of the shit was based on gambling, criminals, bullshit. Fixing. Everything was a scam. Everything was a scam. All the drugs were a scam. Everything was a scam back then. It was just, this is the time of scams. People were so excited about new shit that they're being scammed, kind of like now. It's seriously a lot like now.
Yeah, it is.
Like they're so excited. They're like, I'm going to put everything I have, take it out of my 401k or wherever I have it. I'm going to put it in crypto. And that's the equivalent of what's going on then back to now. That's good, right? I should put all my money
friends
in
are talking about Bitcoin, so I got to do that.
Not that 401k or whatever is any better, and I don't know anything about money. I'm just saying, seems like
you get the point.
I do know there needs to be a limit to something, otherwise it's not worth anything usually, unless it's backed by. There's a long story there. Anyway, so
don't lecture me about fucking the gold standard.
Don't. Nope. I'm not going to do any of that. Nope. Fuck all of you. Yep. Fuck you. Nobody tweet that shit at us. We're not taking that shit. You will get a fuck you and a block on that. I'm not even taking it.
Scream at you. You think I know anything about this?
Yeah, Jimmy will. And even if you think he's nice, somebody, by the way, I found this hilarious. I laughed for like 15 minutes. Somebody tweeted something that, they like us or whatever, and someone said, Wisman is the nice one. And I laughed so hard because I'm like, you really believe that, don't you?
No, he's not.
You really believe that, don't you? I'm like, I hope you're never in an interrogation room because you're going to think good cop is he really wants what's best for me, good cop. No, the other guy's a jerk, but good cop really wants what's best for me. Nope. Here's what happens.
Looking out for me.
Yeah.
No, we're equally vicious. I assure you that.
Yeah, we're terrible people. It's just on the show. My role is to kind of be the heel, and then Jimmy can, that's fine. That's how we play it. That's how you do things. Can't both be the same, but we're both equally terrible people.
That's true, yeah.
And if you say anything bad about either one of us, then we both hate you. We're not
the vitriol. That shit is doubled.
Yeah. If somebody says to me, I love you so much, you're great, I think you're the smartest, funniest person in the world, I can't stand Jimmy, though, blah, blah, blah. I hate you. I don't take that as a compliment. I go, you just insulted my best friend. Go fuck yourself. Oh, you're right. We're best friends now, not the guy that I do this with and fought in the trenches and drove 15 hours to go to fucking festivals with and shit. Not that guy. Me and you are tight now. As a matter of
We're
fact,
gonna be pals.
Would you like to be on the podcast?
We should go into business
Let's
together.
go into business
We're
together.
best friends.
We're best pals now. And that's anybody. It's not an insult to people out there. It's you think that way about your friend. If a stranger says some shit about your friend, you're like, fuck you. That's, so it's funny.
I'm not coming to your kid's birthday, goddammit. Stop it.
Oh, my God. Okay, back to boxing.
Yes.
October 13th, 1893, John Welch, which sounds like everybody's name is John Welch back then.
Everybody knows one.
He's 0-3-1, this guy, so it's not going well for his career.
No.
This is in Wheeling, West Virginia.
Oh, God.
Apparently, it's a 9-round knockout for Kid McCoy here. Knocks out John Welch. Next up, on October 22nd, he fights a man named Deaf Mute.
What?
His name is Deaf Mute.
Like Tape Boy?
First name Deaf, last name Mute.
That's not good.
I don't know why his name is Deaf Mute. I assume he's a deaf mute, but at that point, you could be called Billy.
Yeah.
You could be called William. You could be called any of these. Jim. You don't need to be called Deaf Mute.
But also, this isn't a boxing match anymore. This is just bullying.
Yeah.
You can't fight a deaf mute guy.
Honestly, I don't know what speaking or hearing would really help you in boxing. Honestly, it'd probably focus your senses more if you fucking... You're not going to talk shit. You're not going to waste any time with that. You might be good.
Yeah, I guess if he's deaf blind, that
would be terrible. If he's blind, you can't have that at all. No, that would be really bad. That would just be fucking... That's just abuse at that point.
Blind quad, I guess that's certainly abuse.
Yeah. If he was a crippled mute, if his name was crippled mute, I'd go, that's not even fair. Now, come on.
Still deaf mute does not seem good.
It seems mean to call him that, but that's what he's going by here.
It seems mean to punch him, too.
Yeah, got both. Yeah, both. He knocks out deaf mute in 4 rounds. I don't know. Yeah. So next up, Pat Hayden. He fights in his debut as well. He's fought so many debuting fights. He's only fought 2 guys who have fought before. This is in Providence, Rhode Island. He fights, it's a knockout in 2 rounds, beats him. Next up, Jim Scully in March of 1894.
He sounds badass.
He's 0-1 coming in. So
okay.
He sounds tough, though.
Maybe he got it together later. Who knows?
Big Jim Scully, This was 145 pounds, and it was a finish fight. here.
I thought you were going to say 145 rounds.
145 rounds. It was a finish, right? It could have gone 145 rounds. But apparently it was 7 rounds, and it was a knockout in 7 rounds for
somebody finished it.
For McCoy here. Next up, Billy Steffers in his debut. And this is a loss. This guy knocks out Kid McCoy in 1 minute and 2 seconds in
Billy Steffers
in his debut.
Him. Oh, shit.
What does that tell you, Jimmy?
That's a bad man?
That tells me
he
that
just
is,
overlooked it?
That tell me that the fix is in.
That's as shit.
Yeah. Who's betting on Billy Steffers?
Yeah.
Whoever is making all the money, but all the money's going on McCoy, and he took a dive. Absolutely. I would fucking bet my balls that that's not real, especially against a debuting guy. You're not knocking him out. He fights over 100 times. He's knocked out like 3 times. I feel like those are on purpose, and this guy's not knocking him out. You know what I mean?
It's not going to happen.
No.
Otherwise, we'd know Billy Steffers.
We'd know all about him. He'd be fucking a legend. So May 18th, 8 days after being knocked out unconscious, apparently, he fights again, which is...
knocked out unconscious in 1 minute and 40.
In a minute two.
That's
a minute two.
A flurry of punches.
Yeah, just pummeled him. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So this guy, Jim Barron, that he's fighting at 147 pounds, Jim is 14-4-1. So he's got some experience. This fight goes 10 rounds, all 10, and it's a draw.
Okay.
Nobody wins on decision back then. Like if it goes the distance, they just call it a draw. It's very weird.
I don't like that at all.
I don't know when they brought judges into it, but that's
and even on finished fights, they
the ref will just
call it a draw.
Yeah,
right. Call it a draw.
Now the legend is there are several places where the phrase is traced. The phrase "the real McCoy" is traced back to.
Yeah,
you hear the real McCoy. Okay, one or a couple of them are about him. Okay, really? And yes, now apparently there was in a book in 1881. There was a reference to that. A book that came out in 1881 that, in like a French book, there was a reference to somebody being the real McCoy, but that they don't think that's how it got publicly spread. There's also a couple other legends about it. Some guy that made railroad lubricant. They said if it was the good stuff, it was the real McCoy lubricant, the real McCoy. So that's, to me, seems
that would be the thing. Yeah,
but. There a lot of people credit it to him, to this guy being the real McCoy. One of the legends is he's at a bar, and a much bigger man started fucking with him, as people did back then, because they're shit hammered on booze that's got poison in it. You know what I mean? That's made from like bug spray. So
it's literally got a skull and cross. 3 of them.
Yeah, it's scary shit. So others in the bar, I guess he ignored him. The kid ignored him. Others in the bar said, "Hey, that's the boxer Kid McCoy. By the way, you shouldn't fuck with that guy. That guy's a professional boxer." And the big guy laughed and was like, "That guy's not a boxer. Look at this fucking guy. He's a sickly looking little. Look at him. He's a little turd. I'm not afraid of that guy. He's not a boxer." So he ends up going, "Hey, you think you're tough, do you?" And it goes up to McCoy. "I want to fight you, right?" So apparently, Kid just said, "Okay," and in one punch knocked him out cold. And that was the end of the fight. And then when the guy woke up, apparently, he said, quote, "Oh my God, that was the real McCoy, I suppose." That's what it was. He's the real Kid McCoy. I guess it was him. So
fascinating.
Yeah. So there was that. And then there's another version here when he's known for acting sick before fights. He'd do that all the time to try to fool people. And fool bettors
coughing
too.
And shit.
Also bettors. Better people would see him, and then he'd make himself be seen before fights, and people bet against him, and then,
wandering around like Frank and It's Always Sunny.
Exactly.
Having friends suck on him so he has lesions.
Yeah, so he looks terrible. Yeah, just come on.
He sucked on me.
I love it. That's hilarious. So apparently he was doing that one time, and he was in a fight, and he was, acting like this guy was killing him, and he was acting like he couldn't really fight back to this guy, and then this guy was getting overconfident and just dropping his guard, and then out of nowhere he just came out and fucking started walloping him, just
let him have it
full strength, and the announcer said, "Which one is the real McCoy?" So that was another one that came out, is which one is the real McCoy, because he'd do this all the time. So that was another deal. I kind of
would put this cliche on him, because granted the railroad was a big deal and you want lubricant on your railroad, but And it would be very popular where that would spread easy.
A lot of phrases.
Boxing was a big deal back then. It was the only sport.
It was really the only. So there's no football. Baseball, like I said,
it's in its infancy.
It was like the professional baseball things were just a little tiny article. It was
regional,
boxing was pages and pages and pages.
Right.
I mean, it was a big deal. Another one was because he was so unimposing looking that people would pose as him and fight in his name because they could pass as him because he wouldn't look like shit. You can't pass as Mike Tyson, but you can pass as this guy, especially if there's no pictures of him anywhere.
Yeah.
So that happened a lot, apparently, when people would show up, and I guess he'd give him a kickback. They'd show up as him to fight some exhibition. It wasn't really him, whatever. So people would say, apparently, is that the real McCoy? A lot because they didn't know because he was famous for that. He's like Andy Kaufman, like this is Tony Clifton. That's all. Yeah, it's. But then he shows up and it's really Zamuda in the Clifton outfit, and it's you know how it goes. So yeah, that's how it would work. So that's apparently there's several different legends of that, all from him, and then there's a couple from literature, and then there's the lubricant guy. So,
I want it to be him.
I want it to be him, too. Yeah, we'll say it's him. Fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
So in June of 1894, he fights Charles Maxwell, who, guess what, is debuting. Oh, shocking. Wins by points. It's only a 6-round fight. Wins on points. Next up, in June of 1894, he fights Jack Grace. Jack, Harry, Charles, Billy, Jim.
It's fascinating.
Fuck, man. Jack Grace is 2-6 coming in, and this is a knockout win. Don't know what round. Or 7th round. It's a 7th round knockout for our guy here. Next up, Harry O'Connor. Old Harry O here. Harry O is 0-1 coming into the fight, and the kid knocks him out in 3 rounds. Next up, remember Billy Steffers, who he fought? He's going to fight him twice in a row now for some reason. I don't know why. He's already beat him once.
No, Steffers beat him.
Oh, Steffers beat him. Yeah, Steffers is 1-1 coming in, so he lost another fight that he fought. The kid beats him on points in 10 rounds.
Okay.
Now, so this sets up the third fight. Get it? It's a trilogy. Yeah. See, this is they were learning how to market boxing.
War. Brilliant. Yeah.
Knocked out the champ. Now the champ's going to get his revenge. Oh, but he took him the distance. Who can win the third fight? Think about it, guys.
The only way to know is if you show up.
Oh my God, you got to buy a ticket. So Steffers comes in this time. It goes all 10 again, and he wins. Kid wins the fight, so he wins the rubber match. So this all seems... His only 3 fights that he's fought so far that I see, Billy Steffers, are all against him. Mm-hmm. They made a trilogy. So they basically said, let's get this guy and invent a trilogy out of it.
Brilliant.
The guy, who knows if he was even a fucking professional boxer. You know what I mean?
Probably worked on the railroad.
We have no idea. Yeah, he's lubricating things. So October 29th, 1894, Al Roberts, he fights in his debut, and this is a draw. Goes all 10 rounds. So now another guy debuts, and he draws with him now. Now he's got a formula that they, you know what I mean? It's
figuring it out.
They're doing it again. It's fucking hilarious. Yeah. So the next fight, Al Roberts again.
What?
The big rematch, and this is a knockout in 5 rounds for
Kid.
For Kid. So he doesn't do this much after this, so maybe that didn't work. The Al Roberts one didn't work. Mm-hmm. Next up, he fights Billy the Shadow Maber.
Oh.
Ooh, the Shadow's 12-7-4.
Decent.
Ooh, shadowy. Yeah. This is in Memphis, and it's a 10-round decision for the Kid. Next up, he fights Jack Wilkes in Boston. He's 1-0-2, Jack Wilkes. It's a TKO in 2 rounds for the Kid.
That I'd rather watch. Would you rather watch 10 rounds of going back and forth to a fucking draw?
I mean, if it's fucking amazing, if it's like I've seen 12-round fights where I was like, holy shit, every round is just wild. But I'd rather see Hagler Hearns.
Yeah.
Just 1 round, lay it all out like you're out in the fucking parking lot, and let's see what you got. Yeah, that's awesome.
Like fuck HR, we'll handle this on our own. That's what I want to watch.
And just we're punching till somebody drops. That's all there is to it. No
that last
strategy.
Tyson Fury fight was fantastic.
Yeah, that's fun shit. Well, next up, you'd hate this fight then, because this is the exact opposite of that. He fights Dick O'Brien, who is 10-2-2. This is in Boston. This fight goes all 25 rounds.
Oh, God, Jesus. That is all fucking night.
All 25 rounds, Jimmy.
You've got to start at noon.
Yeah, those are 3-minute rounds. 3 times
Holy
25 is 75 minutes. That's almost an hour and a half of fighting. Never mind the breaks between the rounds.
With 30 seconds of at least sitting on stools.
Yeah. Now, it says McCoy went down a couple times, but apparently the ring was wet. There was moisture in the ring.
Outdoors?
Yeah, it's at a polo rink. So, yeah, it's probably outdoors. So
on the pool.
Yeah, so there was no noted knockdowns over the ice, so there's condensation. Yeah. And so they said that in the 12th round, he almost lost the fight, but I guess he came out and kept it in 25 rounds. Now, the Wilkes fight, the fight before this, we got to talk about quickly here. There's some articles about this here, and here we go. Okay, this is what it says. Quote, McCoy's wonderfully weak appearance and pale face when in the ring on one occasion nearly prevented a fight from taking place, his opponent being afraid to tackle so sickly and delicate-looking a person. Think about this.
You guys stood on the other side of the ring going, come on, you guys, this is torture. We can't do that to him.
Check it out. Can he hear and talk? If not...
Get after it.
So McCoy's opponent on that occasion was Jack Wilkes. There you go. Who called himself the champion middleweight of the Southwest and made St. Louis his home. This Wilkes person had easily taken the measure of all the middleweights around there and was considered some shakes when he was matched with McCoy in a limited round bout in Boston. This was long before McCoy had the reputation as a boxer that he gained a little later. Harry Sharp, later the leading referee of the Middle West, trained Wilkes for his bout with McCoy, and when the two set sail from St. Louis for Boston, I don't think actually literally in a boat, it was as though they were going away to be they were going to be in at the plucking of a very ripe watermelon. On the night of the fight, Wilkes was anxious to take a peek at McCoy, for up to this time he'd never laid eyes on the individual.
What is he, the bride?
I gotta see him. Is he pretty? But he's fighting a guy he's never seen. You'd never see that now. You've seen now when a guy fights, he's watched every round he's ever fought 100 times before he fights him. That's
and
crazy.
Stood across from him and stood on a scale together.
And a scale, and he's everything. Yeah. So he said he knows his sparring partner talks to him. So he said at least, or this is the article, and at last Wilkes was given a view of him as he sat in his corner waiting for Wilkes to come into the ring and toe the scratch. McCoy, always pale and delicate looking insofar as his face was concerned, was unusually pale on this occasion, and he made himself paler by a liberal use of face powder. He used theatrical makeup to look worse. Think about that. This guy is hilarious. He's fucking hilarious. He's like the first showman boxer. Like the first crazy guy who said, I got to fucking do crazy shit to make a name for myself.
Put a couple of red circles on my cheeks.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go. Make me look sick. He said he was drawn and very fine, too, and might have ranked with one of the living skeletons they used to exhibit with the old Barnum show.
Jesus.
God. Old Con has that fellow in his grip, said Wilkes to Sharp after sizing McCoy up. I haven't hardly the heart to fight him. He tells his manager, I can't fight this guy. Look at him. So his manager said, he does look bad, but we've got to do something. And the boxer said, Wilkes said, but are you sure he's the right man? Like, is that the real McCoy? That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what they'd always say. Is this an imposter again? Is that what it is? Is he the real McCoy? That's where, So the guy said, sure, come over and I'll introduce you. So they did. They shook hands. And as they did, Wilkes sized McCoy up again. Then, turning away, Wilkes said to Sharp, it will be a crime for me to fight this man.
I'm going to go to... It's literally a crime. I'm going to go to jail for this, you guys.
He said it would be like me licking a boy. Well, that would really be a crime. You're right.
That's quite the crime.
That's a different crime. Licking meant something different back then, but I get it.
Yeah.
He said, this fellow is too pale and weak to fight anyone. If I start this thing with him, I may kill him, and then what will happen to us both? So he's literally afraid of legal ramifications for fighting this guy.
I don't want to go to jail, and I don't want to kill him.
Yeah, so Sharp, his manager, said, if you feel that way about it, just go in and tap him lightly, but you've got to make some sort of showing, else we have to walk the ties home, and it's a long way back there. In other words, if you don't fight, we're not going to get paid, and we're going to be walking the fucking railroad tracks back home rather than taking the train. So what do you want to do?
The ties. That's amazing.
Wilkes was obdurate. You don't hear that word very often.
Nope.
Obdurate. Obdurate? I that's got to be.
It's got to be obdurate, right?
Obdurate.
Obdurate?
I don't know that word because that's probably an older fashioned word that we don't see a lot
just
more.
A word that it's a pain in the ass is what it is.
And I don't know literature or anything, so there you go. And he advanced all sorts of arguments as to why he should not fight McCoy. Then Sharp, a lawyer by education and learning, also argued and at last won out. Wilkes, after the crowd had shouted its head nearly off, entered the ring and glared at McCoy. That was the kid's first real fight, and he glared back at Wilkes and looked paler than ever. As they returned to their corners, there was a cynical smile on the face of McCoy, and Wilkes looked satisfied, happy perhaps that he had done his opponent no damage. Now came the second round, and like a greyhound released from the leash, McCoy came flying at his opponent. Wilkes tried to ward off the blows which were being thrown at him from every direction. He just said, "I'm here, motherfucker." That's amazing. Wow. Brought every bit of ring knowledge and science he had into play, but try as he would, he could not stem the tide. Crash went McCoy's fist into Jack's solar plexus. As he straightened up to return the compliment, McCoy's right hand landed flush on his jaw and pitched him headlong onto the ring.
Wow.
He knocked him the fuck out. Wilkes never came back. He was knocked out as clean as a whistle, and he laid there for several minutes before Sharp was able to bring him to his senses. He's unconscious for several minutes. Do you know how dangerous that's?
Yeah,
that's bad.
You come back within a minute usually.
And this
pretty
guy's
quickly.
Putting smelling salts, going, "Come on, you got to fight next week. Wake up." This is.
Don't die on me, boy.
Oh my God! So he's
like Brad Pitt in fucking Snatch.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. So he says, that at his eyes opened, Jack whispered, "What happened, Harry? What happened?" And his manager said, "You're licked." And he said, "Who licked me?" He doesn't even know what happened.
AIDSy boy.
Yeah. He said, "McCoy." And he said, "Well, I'll be dinged." And that was that.
The conversations are amazing.
Aren't they fun? "Well, I'll be dinged." Well, isn't that a humdinger? I just got knocked unconscious for several minutes. And will definitely drool when I smile when I'm 50 years old. Terrific. I'm gonna beat my wife and not know why. That's gonna be great.
Unreal.
Other tactics he did here. He did a tour of Australia and the Pacific Islands. And what he would do, and he was in South Africa at one point too, what he would do is he would have people pay money and he would go into the ring, and none of this is like on the record. It's all just that there was press there, but he would go in and just take on all comers.
Just like a parlor trick, yeah.
Like the old-timey wrestlers used to do that. They go to these towns, and I'll take on all comers. Some fat farmer would come out, and they'd tie him in fucking knots, and then everyone go, "Oh, they beat up the tough guy in town, and don't mess with him." But that's what he was doing. He's just going, take on all comers. But he looks like shit, so people were like, "I'll fight this fucking guy." And I guess you'd have to put up money, and then he'd win the money. That's how it worked. So at one place, people think it's South Africa, he weighed about 155 pounds at this point.
That's enough to do some damage.
He agreed to fight a man who is described back then as a, quote, huge native. So I assumed a black guy in South Africa. Yeah. He is weighed over 250 pounds.
Yeah.
He fights. So he said McCoy watched him train and noted the man fought in his bare feet.
Oh.
So when the fight began, McCoy's corner threw handfuls of tacks into the ring. Think about that.
Make that shit fair.
He said McCoy went up to him, started dancing toward him, and then backed up into his corner, drew the guy into the tacks, said the guy fucking grabbed his foot afterwards. He went, "Ow," grabbed his foot, raised it up, and when he did that, fucking kid came in and fucking knocked the shit out of him, knocked him out.
Obliterated him.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then he had thumbtacks on his back like McFoley.
It's a wrestling match.
That's what this is. It's crazy. This is silly shit. Here is one that they call the obscene remark trick in the newspaper. This is from an 1898 newspaper or some shit. Quote, "After several rounds of this, and when the other fellow was unsuspecting, McCoy suddenly wound up one of his stories. He would tell him a story over the course of a fucking match. Every round he'd come out and tell him a little more where they were fighting. Okay, until he'd come to his punchline, which was fifth, sixth round or whatever. he suddenly wound up one of his stories with an obscene remark about the opponent's mother. People did not do that back then. People didn't talk shit.
Fuck your mother was not a thing.
There was no shit talking back then. People didn't talk shit like, your fucking mother liked it last night. This isn't White Men Can't Jump. You know what I mean? Like, this is...
And your sister out of my house immediately.
Yeah, I want your mother and your sister out of my house immediately. I'm going to gather up all these bricks and build a big house.
For your wife, your mother and your sister.
Was it a big house for? Was it? I don't remember what it was. Yeah, and then he said, so your mother has a place to live. Seriously, I want your mother and your sister out of my house immediately. So that's what's going on here. He would do that. There was no your mama shit in 1892. This is I think he invented your mama. Like. This guy invented a lot of shit.
The dozens.
Yeah, he did it. So, from the paper, hot with anger, the other fellow opened up with a mighty blow, throwing caution to the winds. Then Kid stepped in and finished him.
Haymaker, and he misses.
Yep, that's it. In another fight, Kid suddenly shouted at the other fighter, "Look out, your shoe's untied."
Your shoe's untied.
Not the old. It was the new your shoe's untied. They didn't know. 100 years later, kids are still doing this on the playground.
The new, guess what, chicken butt.
Guess what, chicken butt. There's a spot on your shirt. Where? Think that's what this is. It's crazy. So the guy would look down like, oh, wow, my shoe's untied. I don't want to step on that. And Kid would fucking level him. And that was the end of the fight. He'd knock people out. This happened a couple of times. Another one was to, quote, another of the Kid's brutal tactics was to rasp the glove lacings across his opponent's face. So he would the lacings on the bottom when they get in a clench, he would scrape them so it would cut him. Here's one guy, Bill McConnell, who's a boxing instructor. He said, McCoy was one of the smartest, cleverest, most brutal fighters I've ever seen. He was extremely cruel and delighted in marking his opponents for life. Marking them for life. That's why he like
he's on cell block 6.
Yeah, he liked this shit. That's what I mean. He was a dirty. He grew up fighting hobos.
Yeah,
you don't do that. They always say the legend of Harley Race, the wrestler. Mm-hmm. Everybody said he was like. Whenever you ask people who are the toughest guys in the history of wrestling, everybody says Andre, Haku, Harley Race. Those are the three that everybody fucking always brings up because Harley Race was fighting grown men in the streets for money when he was 13, 14 years old. That's why he's so tough. He has that thing, it's a famous thing that he said, if I hit a man with my left and he doesn't go down, I will walk around him and see what's holding him up. So you got to be tough to say shit like that.
Yeah.
So that's what he did. That's why he did the corkscrew punch too, because it would open up more chance of opening up cuts.
Yeah, because you're twisting. There's torque. Yeah.
So he wants to cut you, which also psychologically fucks people up when they're bleeding.
Yeah.
And you get blood in your eyes.
And if you're a winner, and later on, people will tell their other people, I got this from Kid McCoy did this to me.
Exactly, which is what he wants. Next up, he fights Dick Moore. Now he's fighting 150 pounds, so he's moving up here.
Oh, that poor kid. Dick, a first grader.
Right. Dick Moore.
Yeah. More Dick.
More Dick, sir. More, Dick.
In the 1980s, a rosé swept the country.
Hey, Mike, I really like this White Zinfandel. Well, good. Now put it down. We're going to try another one.
White Zin became America's top-selling wine. But most don't know that this sweet drink has a sour history. What began in 1986 with counterfeit bottles.
A big fraud, a multi-million-dollar fraud.
Sent investigators chasing one of the most powerful families in the business, the Licciardis. But the closer the feds got to them, the more dangerous things became. It's a story of deceit.
At the time, I was paranoid.
Threats.
You touch my kids, I will kill you.
And murder.
With a .22 caliber bullet to the head.
What started with a scheme to mislabel wine spilled into a blood-soaked battle for succession. Welcome to Bloodvines. You can binge listen to Bloodvines exclusively and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
Have you ever gotten a message out of the blue? Maybe you ignore them. Or maybe you end up in conversation. Maybe they tell you about an amazing offer. I can really show you how to make some money. And maybe that gets you into a lot of trouble. But this isn't a story about people like you, the people receiving these messages. This is a story about the people behind the messages, on the other end of the line. Thousands of them, working in a microcity built for scammers. From Wondery, the makers of Dr. Death and Kill List, comes Scam Factory, a new series about survival at the expense of others. Follow Scam Factory on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Scam Factory early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
44, 9, and 13 is Dick Moore coming into this. Kid knocks him out in 6 rounds, TKO. Next up, Abe Ullman. Okay. This fight's judged a TKO for Kid. Abe was 5-0-4 coming into this fight.
Oh.
So you'd have a lot of draws back then from the finish fights. This fight goes 13 rounds.
Oh, God.
And it's finally stopped by the police.
What? Like Sting?
Okay. Here's from the newspaper.
Was it a Sting concert? They had to stop because the Sting concert? The police was up next?
Stuart Copeland's wrist got sore. He couldn't drum anymore. It had to be canceled. No. This from the Indianapolis Journal here, October 8th, 1895. Kid McCoy wins. Little trouble to hammer Big Abe Ullman in Baltimore. Kid McCoy of Indianapolis had Abe Ullman of this city all but out in the 13th round tonight when the referee gave McCoy the fight on a foul by one of Ullman's seconds, so one of his cornermen. The contest took place at the Front Street Theater. The men fought at catch weights in the neighborhood of 154 pounds, so it wasn't even an exact weight class. It was just we're both, whatever we are, we're around the same size. We'll be fine. We both agree to that. Ullman stripped a large-looking man, I think is what it's supposed to be. But McCoy soon showed that he had science to spare. Ullman roused the hopes of his friends in the first 3 rounds, but McCoy kept working at his wind, and in the 6th, he had Ullman bleeding at the nose and puffing like a porpoise. From this on, McCoy hit his opponent about as he pleased, getting an occasional hot one in return. In the 10th round, McCoy had his man almost out, but the latter rallied and made a game stand. In the 13th, when Ullman was staggering all over the ring and bleeding freely, one of his seconds lost his temper and threw a sponge, striking the referee squarely in the face.
The ref is pissed.
So this caused the benches to empty, we'll say, or the designated areas if you listen to last week's episode. So the police prevented a free fight and the referee gave McCoy the decision. It turned into a riot, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just people throwing free blows.
Yep. There was non-fighters in the ring. It turned into a mess.
Cornermen fighting cornermen.
Yep. So Ted White, he fights next. 29-7 Ted is. This is in England they fight, I believe. He loses on points in 10 rounds. Ted's English, so you go to his place, you're going to lose on points. January 8th, 1896, Charles Johnson, the Baltimore catcher from back in the day. He's 1-0-1. This is a no contest, no decision after 4 rounds. Don't know what that means.
That's a draw, right? No?
It doesn't count for anything on this, on the record.
It's like an expedition.
His next 2 fights are... an expedition. Exhibition. His next 2 fights are both against guys named Tommy. He fights Tommy West, and West goes down 3 times in the 2nd round, the last one being out cold. So, 2nd round knockout for Kid. Next up, Tommy Ryan, who's 33-0-8 coming in.
Holy.
So 33 wins, no losses, Tommy Ryan, and we will talk about this is the legend of McCoy. This is what makes him as a fighter, okay, this match. Their build, by the way, this is for the world middleweight title at this point. They're fighting at 154 pounds.
Okay.
Now, it says here that McCoy served as a sparring partner for Ryan for years. And apparently Ryan was notorious for beating the shit out of his sparring partners with extra vigor more than everybody else. Yeah, he really hurt his sparring partners a lot. So McCoy wants to get revenge on him for this, for all the beatings he's had to take from him. So McCoy, again, looking thin, pale, and frail, as it says here, told Ryan that he's seriously ill. Like weeks before the fight, I'm really ill. I'm going to fight because I need the money, but I'm very ill. You know, like this is terrible.
Stage 2.
Again, rubbed flour on his face or stage makeup, something of that nature. Ryan fell for it and didn't train. He didn't train like he usually did because he's like, this guy's sick. And he's like, because McCoy was like, look, you're going to beat me bad. I'm just doing it for the money. I'm really sick and I need this. Right. I need this money for my family and just all this type of shit. Yeah. Just don't kill me. So Ryan came in not in top condition. McCoy came in training like a fucking madman, been working his balls off and knocks the living shit out of Ryan. It took 15 rounds, but he knocks him out.
Got it.
Yeah, 15 rounds, knocks him out, gives Ryan his first loss, and makes
How about that?
The legend of Kid McCoy here, and that is Grace. That's Grace. Right now, he's on top of the world.
He's a real trickster.
He's a real trickster. He really is. Next up, he fights Frank Bosworth, Brian's great-granddad.
Of course, yeah.
Obviously.
The original boss.
The original. This one, he comes in 154 pounds. Bosworth is 180 pounds.
Jesus
That's
God.
a big difference. He knocks Bosworth out in 2 rounds, though.
2 rounds?
2 rounds. Second round knockout.
30 pounds on him.
Yep. Next up, Jim Daly, John's great-grandfather. That's nice.
It's getting all of them.
It's getting all of them here. I guess Daly had once been his sparring partner, McCoy's. And it was Jim Corbett's sparring partner, a guy later on. I'm sorry. Okay. So he knocks him all over the ring. He knocks him down multiple times around, and finally it's a TKO in the 3rd round for our guy here. Next up, Mysterious Billy Smith.
I wish we could watch these. God
I
damn
do
it!
too.
I want the YouTube
too.
of all of this and black and white and really fast.
Really fast.
For whatever reason, the frames per second was sped the fuck up.
Yeah, so Babe Ruth looks like the fastest man alive. Look at him go. He's jogging, and he just did that shit really fast.
And whoever pitched was throwing heat, babe.
Oh, good God. You couldn't even see that
the
shit.
The smoke on those things.
No shit, man. Mysterious Billy Smith. Apparently, this is a disqualification win for McCoy here. Smith fouled on a break, and there was that.
He pulled him apart, and he threw punches too quick?
I guess he must have been warned before, too, because he disqualified him in the 6th round. Next up, Dick Moore. Again, Dick Moore here in Brooklyn, they fight. This fight goes all 10 rounds, and he wins on points, McCoy does. Next up, Jimmy Fox, not the baseball player. Single X, not the double X. This is in Philadelphia. No contest, no decision. Who knows? Next up, Bill Doherty in South Africa, he fights.
Yeah.
And he knocks him out in the 9th round out of 20 rounds. This is for the world 158-pound middleweight title. So
of 20 fucking rounds.
We're going 20, everybody.
Oh, my God.
Next up, he fights Jack Graham. Graham fought as Kid Grimm. Don't know why.
Not bad.
But, he gets knocked out in the 2nd round, so that's pretty grim.
Yeah, it's as grim as it gets.
That's grim enough. Next up, he fights Mike Creedon here. He's 3-1 coming in, Creedon, in Pittsburgh. Knocks him out in the 2nd round at the Bijou Theater. I don't know if that's still there anymore. This, by the way, is this is the first fight of today. Kid's going to fight twice today.
In one day.
One day. May 5th, 1897, or May 6th, 1897, he fights twice.
Unbelievable.
He knocks Creedon out in the 2nd round. And then next up, Mike O'Hara. Knocks out 2 guys named Mike in the same day.
Yeah.
Next up is Mike O'Hara, who's debuting. And he knocks him out in the 1st round. So he only fought 3 rounds, but he fought twice in the same day.
Jesus.
Next up, Dick O'Brien. Dick, Jack, Mike, Bill, fuck.
It was a better time, though. It really was.
Well, it's just easier. Actually, it's not easier because if someone says, did you talk to Charles? Which fucking one? I know 45 Charleses. What about William? Which fucking one of those?
Yeah. Well.
I'm annoyed about how many people are named Jimmy and James. Never mind. I'm happy people have weird names. I identify them. I know who they are.
We're the same guy on the same show.
Yeah, people are confused by that. Imagine back then. It'd be 4 guys on a
not
podcast.
Even James.
Yeah, there'll be 4 guys on a podcast, all named Dick. Be terrible. All named Jack. So Dick O'Brien knocks him out in the 10th round. Kid knocks out Dick. Yeah. Kid takes down the Dick. Next up, Jack Bonner. He fights him. So in May, he fought twice on May 6th, once on May 26th, and then fights again on May 31st.
Jesus God.
He fought 10 rounds on the 26th of May and then fought 5 days later.
Unbelievable.
That's ridiculous. And fights another 6 rounds and wins. Beats a guy named Jack Bonner in Philadelphia. So let's talk about his wives, okay? He's married
plural.
at least 9 or 10 times. We're not
Hell
sure
yeah.
which. Yeah,
Attaboy.
everything about him is a character. His what he does, his boxing, his wives.
Who's he think he is? My dad?
Yeah, he's just like that, except he marries rich
Ridiculous.
ladies.
Yeah, mine didn't.
Movie stars and shit, because he's a playboy. Yeah, he's a little different.
Mine's marrying hillbillies.
Yeah, it's different. It's much different. For 1895, he married a woman named Charlotte Peeler. He married her July 31st, 1895, and apparently when they were divorced later on in 1898. And I guess the divorce settlement went to her because he didn't show up in court.
Well, no, he's got dicks to beat.
Yeah. He would later say this was the only person that he was married to who married Norman Selby and not Kid McCoy. Yeah, because she knew him always. She knew him for years, apparently. So that was the only one. Now, one of the reasons why she was probably also awarded the divorce in 1898 is because he got married to someone else in 1897. So
that's bigamy.
He wasn't around, and he was married to someone else. Another woman named Charlotte, to make it easier.
How about that?
Charlotte Smith married her. They divorced quickly as well. Here, that's interesting. I think this is the one where he said, we were married after 2 days. Oh, this is about Charlotte. No. Oh my God. He must have married. He married a girl earlier than that. We just don't know about, because he says we were married after 2 days acquaintance. I was 19, just 19. So back in 1891 or 2, he apparently
Met a
married.
girl, and 2 days later married her?
Yeah. And then it didn't go. Apparently.
Well, weird. Shocking.
Yeah, no shit. Oh, yeah, no. Then he gets into, oh, wow. Yeah, Julia Woodruff. Oh, okay, that's that one. Okay, so there's that one there. Then he marries also in 1897. So he got married twice while he was still married to the other one, to the first Charlotte, to Charlotte number 1. He marries Julia Crosselman, who is known, or before that and is known later on as Julia Woodruff here. She's a New York actress. Here, and he says, quote, we were married 3 times before we decided we could never make a success of our life together. They get married.
The same woman 3 times?
Yep. He married her in 1897. They were divorced in 1900. So he got, wow. Okay. In 1897, he was married to 3 different people over the course of the year, stayed married to one and then another one. He was also divorced twice and remarried in the it's crazy. So he marries Woodruff here. Woodruff after they get divorced in 1900. Then January 7th, 1901, they get married again.
Let's give it a go.
Then they get divorced later on in 1901. Then
this is why they've made marriage and divorce so difficult.
Well, yeah, it has to be, because this is like way too easy.
Otherwise this happens.
On April 11th, 1902, they got married again. And then divorced again on June of 1903.
Yeah, way too easy.
Oh, my God. Then he marries a showgirl named Indiola Arnold.
I would, too.
In 1903. Here, they divorce in 1905.
He blew it.
Of her, he says, quote, we were married 9 months and deciding our marriage was a failure. There you go. So there was that. Next up, Lillian Ellis, who goes by Lillian Estelle Earl, who is the, I guess, widow. She's a rich widower. Her husband died in died in 1904, and they got married in 1905. Her net worth was $7 million.
Of 1901 money?
Adjusted for inflation in 2021 dollars, she had $211,114,815.
That's a catch.
Fucking loaded.
Wow.
She was also a close friend of Julia, his thrice divorced wife. his third, fourth, and fifth wife, Julia. Also,
with $7 million when things cost 12 cents.
How fucking you could buy a house for like $300 back then.
Right.
This is crazy.
They were awarding plots of land for free.
For $5 million, you could buy Manhattan.
Yeah.
Literally. Just, I'll take it all. The whole
That's
island.
what the subway system cost back then.
To drill into the earth and put trains in it. That's crazy. So they're going to be married for 5 years. 1910, they're going to finally get divorced here. What did he say about that one? I guess she struggled with being married to him because he's a disaster. And he said, it was not until 5 years after our marriage that we sought divorce. Well, yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
His next wife here, Edna Ferdinanda Valentine, I guess they got married in 1911 in Gaston, North Carolina, and it was her second marriage here as well. All these women were married a bunch just like him. They were all. It was a lot of like showbiz people, so they were.
Yeah, that stuff never lasts.
Yeah, moving in circles.
Yeah.
He said Edna was a charming girl. She was the daughter of a Honduras mining man.
Yeah.
Rich, in other words.
Yeah.
Our 1 year together was spent mostly abroad, and then we decided to break. That's nice. His next wife will be later on. We'll talk about it. He's got more coming. Don't worry. Three more on deck. So,
oh my God!
But that's what he's doing during his boxing career. So imagine
beating the shit out of people and then marrying hot heiresses.
Marrying hot heiresses and showgirls and movies. They're not
What
movie, but
a
stage
life.
actors,
Yeah.
and then training and beating guys up and tricking them and. It's crazy. He's really famous, though. Like, he's super. He's one of the most famous boxers in the world at this point because he's so colorful. People know of him. So next up in 1897 in July 5th, he fights Nick Burley, who's 35-8-4. Not bad. But Kid knocks him out, though, here in 3 rounds. Not bad for Kid. Next up, Dick Moore again. He can't get enough Dick Moore.
He needs more.
He needs more Dick. More Dick Moore. Dick Moore, he knocks him out in the second round. The fights keep getting shorter with Dick Moore.
They sure do,
Dick Moore is getting shorter and shorter. Must be cold out.
Dick Moore.
Yeah, he's getting less of Dick Moore. It's getting very. Oh, this was in Buffalo. That's why he was chilly.
Yeah.
Dick Moore is going to go way shorter in Buffalo.
He shrinks in Buffalo.
Shrinks right up. And let's see, August 13th, 1897, Dan Bailiff, he fights. Bailiff. He is 2-0-1, but this guy gets knocked out in the third round here. Kid wins. Next up, Tommy Ryan again. Okay. Apparently, the referee calls this fight in 5 rounds. Okay. Now, later on, a referee that wasn't reffing the fight, but that watched the fight, said there was no reason. The police intervened in the bout and broke it all up, but the ref said there was no reason for that. Both men were strong. Nobody was hurt. Everybody could have finished the fight, and so they had to give it a draw. That was it. So there was some kind of fix in there, obviously.
Or maybe the police didn't realize that it was a sanctioned fight.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, there's guys
these
fighting
ropes
over
in
there." Oh, Jesus Christ! They put ropes up. It's getting out of hand. Next up, he fights Jim Hall. Which are 2 different ways to say a room in a hall. That's perfect. Jim Hall. But it's J-I-M, obviously. 50 wins for Jim Hall. 50, 13, and 14. This is a no contest, no decision. Now, I know why this is, because the bout, it stopped in 5 rounds, but the bout was scheduled for 6 rounds. The referee was a fake. And
what?
Apparently it was a fake referee, and by the 5th round, all of the press at ringside started calling and wouldn't stop saying it's a fake referee, it's a fake referee. They eventually just stopped the fight, and everybody left and was like, don't say anything. It's a fake referee.
Like, tied up in a broom closet somewhere?
Yeah, so Enrico Palazzo's back there fucking all tied up with his tuxedo taken off him. So here's a little bit on the corkscrew punch, which is just what everybody does. You jab, you twist at the end.
Yeah.
It's just, it puts a little extra stank on it.
Yeah.
So this is from a newspaper back then. Quote, McCoy invented the corkscrew punch. Jack Grace, globe-trotting fighter and the kid's traveling companion on his South African trip recalls. Quote, it was a vicious blow. As his fist connected with his opponent's face, the kid turned it. With this punch, McCoy would cut the rival's rival battler to pieces. It wasn't a knockout he was seeking. It was to make the other fellow suffer. Others tell of
tenderizing him.
He's tenderizing him, yeah. Others tell of tricks that he used to use as well. There was one, in Jesus Christ, in which he kept whispering in his opponent's ear during the clenches. He kept whispering weird shit, like different stuff, weird shit that would like saying he was attracted to him. He would say hey, listen, we're pals. Let's not fight anymore. Like, hey, what are you doing? Don't punch each other. Why are we doing that? Let's be friends. Like, let's not do this. And then he fucking he's just fucking with people. He's just fucking, let's share an ice cream cone.
Let's Lady in the Tramp a hot dog.
Let's do it. Come on. Let's Lady in the Tramp Dickmore. What do you say? So that's pretty shocking for back then, too. People would be very surprised, but not as surprised as they would be at the sales, Jimmy. Oh, the sales from 1899 here are amazing.
This I can't wait for.
Oh, baby. Let's see here. Do you have varicola, Kelly? Do you have that? VARICOCLE? Do you have that?
I've got it.
Well, they cure it under written guarantee in 5 days.
5 days?
5 days. Positively, painlessly, and permanently is the way they put it.
I'm told this is I was told it's terminal.
It's not terminal, Jimmy. We can help you. Here it is. No detention from business, over 8,000 cures, and no failures or recurrences. 100% success rate medically. Guaranteed. The only thing that's 100% successful is cocaine. It's the only thing that works every time. You know, nothing else you can count on medically, I would say. That'll make you hyper. We can give you the quickest, safest. Sorry, this is really hard. This is an ad in a newspaper from back then, so the printing's not great. We can give you the quickest, safest, and most reliable cure obtainable. You are strengthened in every way, mentally, physically, and sexually.
Oh, so it's something with your dick?
This is all about your dick. I was waiting for that. Throw away your suspensory. Do not. I think it just means your sense of suspense. Do not delay, as impotency and spermatoria are the ultimate results of neglected varicosely. Cure stricture and gleat in 10 to 20 days.
That is disgusting.
All chronic discharges from the urethral canal quickly cured. Stricture removed by electricity painlessly and permanently.
How is that painless?
Especially back then. They didn't have control of electricity back then. That's crazy.
How are you going to shock my cock with
wow,
prehistoric electricity?
It's Doc Shockcock. Perfect. That's what they called this guy. Doctors Francis and Francis, Doctors Shock and Cock. Sexual debility in 30 to 90 days cured. That'll take a little longer. Our treatment for weak men overcomes the effects of youthful follies and later excesses. Don't know what that means. All drains and emissions cease. Oh, it's if you got the dick drips. If you got, this is for VD, man.
Right.
This is if you that's follies and later excesses. If you've been fucking hookers, is what they were saying back then. Old West prostitutes. That's what we mean. That's what they would say.
Electrify your dick will fix. No, man. Develop penicillin, bro. This is a bacteria or a virus. We need help.
Oh, it's scary shit, man.
Electricity
I need
does
help.
not fix viruses and bacteria.
Zap it out. Zap it. All drains and emissions cease. The parts regain their normal size and vigor. This is the first your dick will be bigger pill.
Yeah.
And you will never again be troubled with prematureness. This will make you last longer.
Well, yeah, because we're going to burn that motherfucker.
Oh, yeah, it's going to hurt to have sex. Nervousness, vital weakness, etc. We can fit you for a happy married life and a successful business career with your rock-hard cock.
We're going to zap it till it's hard forever and never comes.
And never comes. And if it does, it'll only be good things coming out of there. Diseases of men also, it says. We have made a special study of the treatment of men's diseases for many years, and over 10,000 cured patients will gladly testify to our success, skill, and honesty in the practice of our specialty. And it says, write for a full description. I wish I could still write and get a full description from these people, because that is fucking amazing. Also, why don't you drink some Old Kentucky Clubhouse whiskey? What do you say? There you go.
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse. especially recommended for medicinal purposes. Oh, that's good. What? Purity, flavor, age, nothing can be better. We will deliver express prepaid to any railroad point in New England 4 quarts of whiskey for $4.
Wow.
Not too shabby.
Delivered?
Delivered to any rail station in the Northeast.
4 of the grossest descriptions and measurements of whiskey ever.
Ever. Do you have blood poisoning, Jimmy?
You know,
Suffer
so much.
from blood poison? Well, have you sore throat, pimples, copper-colored spots, aches, old sores, ulcers in mouth, hair falling out? Well,
you're dying.
That seems like a bunch of things that mean you're dying if they're all together. You have lesions and your hair's falling out.
It's almost over.
Don't worry about it. This is just like an opiate to make you comfortable. Yeah. No, this is Cook Remedy Co., 129 Masonic Temple, Chicago. Right for proof of cures. That you can write them, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay. Kidney diseases are the most fatal of all diseases, this next ad says.
Right.
Foley's Kidney Cure is a guaranteed remedy.
Kidney cure.
Kidney cure. Or money refunded. It's fatal. How are they going to refund their money? Recognized by eminent physicians as the best for kidney and bladder troubles. Price, 50 cents. So
50
that's all you need.
cents for kidney cure?
Cure it all. Finally, magic hair stain. Stain. Want some magic hair stain? It's magic, Jimmy. Want some?
Stain.
Oh, my God. For brown or black, prepared by George Ormsby, wig maker and hair worker, 169 Tremont Street, room 15, is simple and easy to apply, contains no lead or nerve poison. Well, that's helpful. You don't want to dye your hair with nerve poison, probably. Nerve poison? Why would there be nerve poison in anything that you're going to apply to your head?
Why do you have to tell me that that's not in there? That implies that we would think it is.
Oh, I bet it's full of nerve poison. What the fuck? Use it once and you will have no other, or have it applied by Mr. Ormsby. No smutting or rubbing off. Price $1. A $1 hair stain. I'm sure that looks great.
Thank God for the word dye being invented.
I know, right? Stain?
I can't believe they sold a bit of that.
I think they were
something called stain.
We can't say stain, right? That's not going to. Nobody wants to anything stained, I don't think.
It's not a fucking deck, for Christ's sake. It's my hair.
Yeah. What the fuck, man? It's not a beach chair.
What is this, my fucking fence? It's my hair. I'm taking this with me, for Christ's sake.
Oh, my God. Oh, God. His next 2 fights, October 12th, are both November 12th, 1897. He fights in the same day.
Uh-huh.
He fights George LeBlanche in the first fight. 41, 19, and 11 this guy is coming in.
Ooh.
Apparently, kid knocks him out. Oh, LeBlanche was drunk. He showed up for the fight drunk, and kid knocked him out in 20 seconds because he was drunk.
He showed up, was like, it was $4 for 4 quarts. It was
4
so cheap.
quarts. I picked it up at the railroad, and it was delicious, good, tasty.
How's my hair look? It's
okay. Ow! Ow! When they pick him up, there's stain all over the mat when they pick him up.
And his cock is rock hard.
Rock hard, and his kidneys are in the best shape ever.
He bought everything.
He got it all. So he knocks 20 seconds. He knocks out a drunk man.
Wow.
That's nice.
That's abuse.
Next up, he fights Beach Ruble.
Uh-huh.
BeachRuble. Beach Ruble.
Does this person...
It's his debut.
Yeah.
I think this guy is full of shit. It's some bullshit made-up name. Knocks him out in the second round. That's bullshit. Next up, he fights Australian Billy Smith is his name.
Okay.
Weird part is he's Dutch. That's Australian. He's Australian.
It sounds like so far the government is making people fight for their fucking citizenship.
It sounds like
some guy named Beach Ruble fight for it. And then the Australian, get in there.
Oh my God. Now, The Sportsman, a magazine in Australia, reported that at McCoy's behest, a fighter called Tarantula Bill posed as Australian Billy Smith, and it wasn't really Australian Billy Smith that he fought. Later, it confirmed Tarantula was Adelaide Billy Smith, whose real name was Charlie Matthews. So not Australian Billy Smith, Adelaide Billy Smith. Prior to the bout, the Chicago Chronicle reported it, and yeah, there you go. So it was a knockout in 2 rounds. It was all bullshit. That was a bullshit day. Beach Ruble 2 weeks before. That was 3 days before. He had a bullshit week is what that was. So next up, he fights Dan Creedon. Now, Creedon is a 31-1-7. So Creedon's no shit at this point. He's got to fight a real guy. And this is for the world middleweight title at this point. And apparently Creedon's a very strong-looking guy and all this kind of shit. So he's not expected to win, kid, and he actually does win because after 15 rounds of a 25-round fight,
fucking hell,
Creedon can't come out for the 16th round
because he's tired.
He's got brain damage. He's like, I don't remember my wife's name. I'm going to stay here. And they just carried him back. It's at this point, I feel like he needs money right now because he referees a couple matches in between some fights here.
Okay.
He fights. This is what he does in March of 1898. He fights on the 4th. He referees. He fights on the 4th. He fights 2 fights on the 11th, then referees on the 17th and 21st. Did he owe someone money or something? The 2 fights he refereed, it doesn't matter who he Wilmington Jack Daly and George Kid Levine was one of them. Who gives a shit? Doesn't matter. Either way, back to his fighting. He knocks out Nick Burley in the second round, 140 in the second round in Hot Springs, Arkansas. The notable thing here is referee of that match, Bat Masterson.
Stop it.
Bat Masterson is the referee.
Real one.
It's 1898.
Yeah.
Bat fucking Masterson is the referee. He's the draw.
I had no idea that he was involved in that.
People would just make appearances and they get money for it. So they would do shit like that. Ref a boxing match, do a shooting exhibition. It's cool as fuck, man. So the next fight was March 11th against Vern Hardenbrook. I guess this is one of his all-comers thing, one of his all-comers days. And I guess Vern Hardenbrook was the Indiana State champ, and the bout went the distance, and it's a no contest. I guess there's some weird rule about it. And then he knocks out Jim Bates in the first round, who hits his debut. So that's a bullshit fight. Yeah. Next up, he fights Gus Rulin, and that's
a cool name.
Gus Rulin, Ruhlin.
If I'd have been a better man, I would have fucking stuck my foot down and been like, I'm naming him something old timey. I wish I would have named my kid Gus. That's a cool fucking name.
There you go, Gus. Yeah, that is a cool name. Nobody's named Gus. That'd be real original
now. Nobody's named Gus anymore.
There's no 6-year-old named Gus right now walking around. Doesn't exist.
Somebody name your kid Gus for me.
Gus. This fight goes all 20 rounds.
Wow.
All 20, and McCoy wins on points there. Next up, Joe Goddard. This fight is apparently in the 5th round, Goddard goes down, and then Goddard gets disqualified later in the round for trying to wrestle McCoy to the ground.
Oh,
so that was it.
Into a different fight.
Yeah, he did like Roddy Piper and Mr. T in WrestleMania 2. And I guess but he said, I only threw him down because McCoy hit on the break, and that should have been a disqualification, and didn't disqualify him, so I got mad. This is what McCoy would do. He'd sneak a shot, and he was a heel, man. It's funny.
Yeah.
So next up, he's going to fight. They're going to talk about. He's going to ref a couple of fights too. He refs 3 fights in January of 1899. So he needs the money. Then he's going to fight Sailor Tom Sharkey.
Yeah.
Okay, Sailor Tom Sharkey's 28-3-6 coming into this fight. This fight here is fought at the Lenox Athletic Club at 110th Street in Lexington in New York City. This is like across 110th Street. Across 110th Street. You can watch this guy do some crazy shit. That wasn't in the song, but yeah, there's a different neighborhood. That was actually 1899. I don't even know what the fuck it was back then because...
That's Queens, right?
No, that's fucking... No, it's
Harlem, right?
It's uptown. Yeah, it's Harlem. That's the beginning of Harlem there. So, yeah, 110th and Lex. So I'm trying to think back then what would that have been because I don't even think the Italians had gone up there yet. I don't even think we were still in the fire hazard crammed into downtown because then we went up there.
Hell's Kitchen?
And then, I don't know. That's weird. So either way, when McCoy fought Sharkey at the Lenox Athletic Club, 110th Street and Lexington Avenue, January 10th, 1899, the former introduced a novelty, McCoy obviously, in his corner. Instead of the customary stool, he used a steamer reclining chair in his corner.
What?
Recliners had just came out, so he brought a recliner in his corner and used that
Dropped
instead of a chair.
lazy boy in the corner.
See what I'm saying? This guy's a fucking a real character. Sailor Sharkey intimated that McCoy was quite apt to need the steamer chair. He'll be seasick before the end of the voyage, said the sailor. Oh my
he's
God.
got fucking sailing puns.
Yes, he does, this guy. Jesus Christ. Tap, 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 and he did like
I'm going to make him
Popeye
walk the
thing.
plank. Does he say shit like that?
Probably. As it was, McCoy nearly scuttled the tattooed ship on the sailor's manly bosom. So apparently he's got a tattoo of a ship.
Yeah.
You know how many few people had tattoos in 1899?
Actual sailors.
Actual sailors. For he brought Sharkey down with a thud in the third round, but the sailor was too rugged to be kept down for the count of 10. And in the 10th round, he finished McCoy, who found the steamer chair very convenient.
Oh,
so this is a knockout.
Had some spinach in his corner.
That's right. Knockout loss in the 10th round of 20. The next fight, this is a couple months later in March of 1899, he fights Joe Choinsky. Do you
think that sailor guy was the inspiration for Popeye?
Possibly.
You know what I mean?
Probably
He
a lot of
punched.
sailors. Yeah, I think
He
it's probably
punched.
he punched. He's a puncher. Maybe Tom Sharkey. Who knows? I don't know the origins of Popeye. So maybe
I'm not a
positive.
historian.
if he was out in like 1910, maybe that's possible.
Yeah.
But apparently here in this fight, the Sharkey fight, before we get into Choinsky again, in the Sharkey fight, he was knocked out with a left hook in the 10th, Kid McCoy. After the count, when McCoy the ref called it, he thought apparently Sharkey didn't know the fight was over and attacked him again and hit him with another left and knocked him down again. So to add to the brain damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give him an extra. Yeah.
That's interesting. The Choinsky fight goes all 20 rounds. Jesus. And he wins on points. The kid wins on points here. Next up, Tom Duggan. That is Hacksaw Jim's great-grandfather.
Yeah.
Obviously. Here he fights him, beats him in 2 rounds with a TKO.
Wow, and Tom had a fucking 2x4. That's amazing.
That's what I mean. You got to be... Kid's no joke, dude. Takes him right down. The same day, he fought Jack Graham and beat him in 4 rounds. So 2 different fights in the same day. Then 4 days later, he fights another fucking fight here. Carter against Jim Carter. Jim is billed as the heavyweight champion of Alabama. I don't know what that means, but
it's not nearly as impressive.
I don't know. He gets knocked out, though. Kid knocks him out in the 5th round. So. Alabama. Heavyweight champion of Alabama. Next up, 4 days after that, dude, he's fighting a lot. He fights Jack McCormick.
He hasn't even stopped bleeding.
No, this is at the Star Theater in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
That's fucking cool. Where was the Star Theater? Which one was that? What did that turn into later? I remember when we were in Chicago, we went through the history of all these Chicago theaters.
It's
and
right
venues.
there downtown, or in that general historic area, next to that what is that? The one that we were at.
Yeah,
Lincoln
that's
Hall.
it's near there, right?
It's right
People
there.
will tell us. People will tell us. Either way, this fight, in the first round, he loses and gets knocked out. Now, this is from the San Francisco Call newspaper, it's called. Sitting at ringside, famed referee George Seiler said, "It looked to me like a fight lost through overconfidence. McCoy had both hands down at his side when McCormick feinted left, then shot over a right that landed flush on the jaw." So I don't know what he was thinking there to do that, but he lost and got knocked out. Next up, he fights Jeff Thorne, who's 1-0 coming into this fight. He knocks this guy out in the 3rd round. Next up, Steve O'Donnell. He knocks Steve O'Donnell out in the 6th round. Apparently, quote, O'Donnell was bruised and bleeding when McCoy got through with him in the 5th round, but he was game and went out for the 6th. After 2 minutes and 48 seconds, McCoy, with several left and right swings to the jaw, knocked him out. So there you go.
Probably shouldn't have come out.
No, probably not. So Jack McCormick, he fights again. Now he's got to get his revenge, and he TKOs Jack McCormick in the 8th round this time. Keeps his fucking hands up, apparently. He fights Joe Choinsky again. This is only a 6th round fight. Apparently, the quote, amid cries of fake referee, Malachi Hogan is his name, announced both had agreed to a draw if no knockout at the end of 6 rounds. McCoy, however, scored the only knockdown of the fight, putting Joe down in the third, and most believe Kidd had done enough to deserve the decision, but it's a draw. So that's what they would have, these fights where they would agree that it's no winner if it's a draw, basically. No winner if you go the distance. Next up, Billy Stift. Stift? Yeah, Stift. Okay. He fights Billy Stift, knocks him out in the 13th round. Fights Jack McDonough, knocks him out in the 4th round. Fights Peter Marr, who's 115-6-6.
What?
That's a lot of fights, man. This is New Year's Day 1900, turn of the century.
And 12 fights he has lost or drawn out of 127?
And imagine how many other fights he's fought and how many of those were bare knuckle probably.
That's
and
a
shit like
dangerous human being.
Yeah, well, he knocks. I think he's older too. This is he comes in. By the way, Kidd comes in at 163 pounds, and this guy's 172 pounds, and knocks him out in the 5th round. Apparently, he went down. Marr went down in the 1st, 2nd, and then finally in the 5th for good. Okay. Joe Choinski again. Now we're going to fight him again, and it says here that he can't come out for the 5th round, Joe, and it's a win for McCoy. Yeah. A right hand swing to the jaw by McCoy landed just as the bell sounded to end the round, and Choinski was knocked out cold. Joe was unable to answer the bell for the start of the 4th round. After the bout, he and McCoy signed articles to meet again under the same conditions. So, next up, Dan Creedon. Knocks him out in the 6th round, Kidd does. Next up, Tommy Ryan again.
Yeah.
Tommy is 60-1 now.
Yeah.
One is him. Right. 60-1. This fight goes to the referee. This fight goes all 6 rounds. Referee originally rules for McCoy, but later on the decision is changed to a draw.
What?
So, don't know. It's a draw. Yeah, I guess probably to keep it fresh. I don't know. Next up, Jack Bonner, and this is for the World and American 158-pound middleweight title. Okay. And he knocks out Bonner in the 13th round. So good for him.
Fuck. Behind the closed doors of government offices and military compounds, there are hidden stories and buried secrets from the darkest corners of history. From covert experiments pushing the boundaries of science to operations so secretive they were barely whispered about. Each week, on Redacted, Declassified Mysteries, we pull back the curtain on these hidden histories. 100% true and verifiable stories that expose the shadowy underbelly of power. Consider Operation Paperclip, where former Nazi scientists were brought to America after World War II, not as prisoners, but as assets to advance U.S. intelligence during the Cold War. These aren't just old conspiracy theories. They're thoroughly investigated accounts that reveal the uncomfortable truths still shaping our world today. The stories are real. The secrets are shocking. Follow Redacted, Declassified Mysteries on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Redacted early and ad-free right now on Wondery Plus.
In the 1980s, a rosé swept the country.
Hey, Mike, I really like this white Zinfandel. Well, good. Now put it down. I'm going to try another one.
White Zin became America's top-selling wine. But most don't know that this sweet drink has a sour history. What began in 1986 with counterfeit bottles.
A big fraud, a multi-million-dollar fraud.
Sent investigators chasing one of the most powerful families in the business, the Licciardis. But the closer the feds got to them, the more dangerous things became. It's a story of deceit.
At the time, I was paranoid.
Threats.
You touch my kids, I will kill you.
And murder.
With a .22 caliber bullet to the head.
What started with a scheme to mislabel wine spilled into a blood-soaked battle for succession. Welcome to Bloodvines. You can binge listen to Bloodvines exclusively and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
Now, Corbett, he fights next, this guy named Corbett, and this is a big fight for him. It's very interesting because it's a big fight in lore here. I have the contract here, by the way, for this fight.
What?
Want to know what a contract from 1900 is like for boxing?
I'd love to know what the wording is.
Here it is. It's in the newspaper. Both men agree that the club referee, Charles White, shall referee this contest and that they shall accept his interpretation of the Marquis of Queensberry rules. It is further agreed that both shall furnish their own gloves, subject to the approval of the referee, but in case they are not approved by the contestants, the club shall furnish the gloves to be used. If they can't agree on gloves, then they'll have to have a third guy there. It is further agreed that the purse shall be divided 70% to the winner and 30% to the loser. J.J. Corbett further agrees to post today with Al Smith a forfeit of $2,500 to cover the forfeit already posted by Charles Kid McCoy. So he had to put up like an assurance bond that you're going to be there. And as evidence of good faith in carrying out the above contract. In case either man for any reason fails to appear on the night of the 30th of August at the 20th Century Club to box, as agreed above, he shall forfeit to the other contestant the sum of $2,500 herein mentioned. So there you go. That's a fight back then.
Yeah.
James Corbett, here it goes. Madison Square fucking Garden in 1900.
And if
so
you
this
don't
is
show up, you pay $2,500.
That's it. This is like the old Madison Square Garden. I mean, this was like where horses were and shit. This is crazy. This is August 30th here. This fight results in a fifth round knockout of Kid McCoy. Kid gets knocked out, but it is known as the biggest thrown fight in history almost. Like it's assured that everyone thinks that he threw it. It's ridiculous. Here it is the next day from the newspaper, from the St. Louis Republic. It says, "It was the fastest fight between heavyweights I ever witnessed. Corbett won through superior feinting ability. He out-generated McCoy time and time again. It was a hard fight from start to finish. It was the only contest between heavyweights in which there was really a winner's and a loser's end. Both men fought hard for the winner's share. It was a blow to the body that really caused McCoy's defeat, although the finishing touch was a right-hander on the short ribs. I counted McCoy out and called off the seconds clearly and distinctly. If McCoy failed to hear them, it was because he was unconscious and didn't know what was going on about him." That was the referee.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Kid, this is what he says. This is his description of round one here. "Corbett looked good and in good shape, and I was glad of it. I always like to know that my opponent's in good condition." This is what Kid says. "For there is no glory in whipping a man out of shape. Well, the round was pretty tame. I led Corbett on as to find his weak spots. I worked in the only blow which counted. Jim was unable to reach me. He was very lively on his feet." So nobody's touching anybody. So he goes on and on. That's just kind of how it goes. Now, here's another thing about the betting. Okay. This is from the New York Times, I think. "Betting on tonight's fight was very tame. It was expected that heavy wagers would be placed at ringside, but the McCoy money did not materialize because they knew it was in. The fix was in, so nobody bet on him. Corbett was a pronounced favorite from the start. Everybody seemed to want Corbett end. Early in the evening, 10-8 was quoted, and a number of small bets were recorded at those odds. John Considine sent out $3,000 to be placed at 10-8. Considine's money was followed by several other heavy offers to back Corbett. The fix was in. But when the McCoy people saw the flow of Corbett money, they held off for a better price, and soon 10-7 was the prevailing quotation. In some quarters, as good as 100-60 was offered on the ex-champion. There were many freak bets made as to the length of the contest. Several wagers were made that McCoy would not go 15 rounds. As the crowd filed in around the arena, more Corbett money came in sight, and anyone who showed any disposition to place a small bet on McCoy's chances was snapped up in an instant. They said the heavy bettors who thought McCoy a good bet held off. They said until the men entered the ring as to get a line on the men to see what they looked like. My ass, yeah. So within a week, people are saying it's fixed. It comes out. Honest John Kelly accuses McCoy of crooked work is in the newspaper. Honest John. McCoy, let's see. McCoy, the pugilist, and Honest John Kelly, one of the most popular sporting men in the city, almost came to blows last night at the Delavan Hotel over a remark Kelly hurled at the fighter. He accused McCoy of laying down in his recent fight with Corbett. McCoy went into the Delavan Hotel to have a sociable talk with Tom O'Rourke, the proprietor. While thus engaged, Kelly entered and said, "Let's be sociable," inviting O'Rourke and McCoy and a few other sporting men present to join him. All sat down at a table, and after giving their orders to the waiter, Kelly suddenly fixed his eyes on McCoy in a way which made the kid a bit sheepish. Just as McCoy was about to ask Kelly why he was eyeing him so closely, the latter said in a surprised tone, "Kid, I don't think you fought on the level with Corbett." "What do you mean?" replied McCoy, becoming excited. "I mean just what I said, Charlie. I say you did not fight on the level. I say you didn't fight on the level. See? Charlie. I said, Charlie. I meant just what I said, Charlie. I say you didn't fight on the level. For if you did, you think you could have beaten Corbett. I think you're a faker." Called him a faker. McCoy could no longer restrain himself and jumped to his feet and pulled back his arm as if intended to let fly a punch at Kelly's face. Kelly, seeing McCoy was angry, got up too and threw his arms around the kid's neck in a closed clinch, saying, quote, "Now, kid, you know I like you and have always been your friend. I think a great deal of you and I don't want any trouble with you. Please don't beat the shit out of me."
Yeah.
You beat up hobos. You're going to kick my ass. McCoy evidently took Kelly's reply for an apology, for he at once smiled good-naturedly and sank into his chair. The drinks which had been ordered then arrived, and McCoy and Kelly with the others consumed the beverages. Kelly could not keep quiet and again eyed McCoy searchingly and said, "I will tell you once again, kid, you laid down to Jim Corbett and you should be ashamed of yourself." He's going to kick your ass.
Down.
Yeah. McCoy did not lose his temper but simply looked hard at Kelly. "You bet on Corbett, didn't you?" exclaimed McCoy. "Yes, I did, and I won a pot of money on his victory," replied Kelly. "And you don't think you won fairly?" shouted McCoy. "No, I don't," answered Kelly. "Have you given the money back to the persons you won it from?" McCoy said. "No, I haven't." "Well, I'll tell you what to do. You pay back every cent you won on Corbett, and then you can talk to me, but not before." In other words, we both got our what the fuck we came there for, asshole, so shut up. Kelly then said, "It was a crooked fight just the same. You can lick Corbett anytime you want. You're a skin." I don't know what that means. Yeah. But McCoy could not stand Kelly's insinuations any longer and gritted his teeth and pulled back his left hand. For the second time, Kelly jumped up and grasped McCoy around the neck, hugged him tightly, and at the same time saying, "You don't want to hit me. You know I've always stood by you."
"You're not
Stop
standing
talking
by me
shit.
Right.
Shut the fuck up then, asshole.
You're being a real dick about it.
Yeah, you're a dick. I say I'm going to punch you. Then you hug me and tell me how good of friends we are. Shut the fuck up, asshole. This guy, Honest John's an asshole. This guy's a dick. So McCoy dropped his hands to his side and with a faint smile on his face managed to control himself. Kelly was then addressed in a harsh way by a number of the sports who told him he had no right to talk of McCoy in that manner unless he can prove what he said. He finally apologized a few minutes later and stated he would wager $2,500 to $7,000 that McCoy could beat Corbett. Then the fun came to an end. So that's it. Wow. Night over. John Sullivan, the bare knuckle champion that everybody knows about, John L. Sullivan, he agrees and said it was fixed. In the newspaper, ex-champion heavyweight pugilist John L. Sullivan arrived here and umpired 2 games of baseball. What? Pardon? What the fuck? Bare knuckle boxing, baseball umpiring. One in Norfolk and one in Portsmouth. Sullivan got half the gate receipts. That's why he's the draw, just to show up. It's like when Wilt Chamberlain coached in the ABA. People bought tickets to look at him sit on the bench. The designated area. So Sullivan had half the gate receipts, which were quite large. Sullivan, in an interview, expressed the belief that the recent Corbett-McCoy fight was a crooked one and that he knew McCoy could have put up a better fight had he tried. Quote, "Prize fighting is practically dead," said Sullivan. Mm-hmm. He'd be shocked to see it still going 120 years later. New York was the only place where the fighters could make the coin, and now that boxing is prohibited in that state, this, by the way, caused New York State to outlaw boxing, and Connecticut as well for a while. Yeah, this fight. Prohibited in that state, it's unlikely any big matches will be made in the near future. Fitzsimmons, I believe, will never again fight Jeffries. He's got a scare coming for him, for Jeff is too young and powerful for Bob. Okay, either way. His next few fights here, I think he's fighting in England. He fights in England for the next 3. Sandy Ferguson, Jack Scales, and David Barry. He knocks all of them out in under 4 rounds. Who cares? 4-1 and 3. 4-1 and 2 rounds. Next up, Fred Russell here. This is a 6th round decision. And it says McCoy won the newspaper decision according to the record compiled by Tracy Callis. Neither man appeared to take the exhibition seriously until the 5th round when Russell struck a low blow and McCoy retaliated. They started wailing on each other's dicks at that point. McCoy proceeded to batter the bigger man at his ease, and according to Washington Evening Star, would have won the decision if one had been permitted. So there you go. Next up, Kid Carter, he fights. Apparently he loses this fight, and apparently McCoy had a hand injury that he suffered 2 weeks earlier in his last fight, and that's what fucked him up. He couldn't really punch, so he loses in 6 rounds here, does Kid. Next up, he fights Jack McCormick again. Jesus Christ. McCormick needs to retire and make his spices already, because this is getting too much. Too much for old Jack, man. Fucking crazy shit. So Jack McCormick, apparently it was an easy win here, 6th round, but they said it was easy, so I don't know. Next up, Jack Root. So,
That's an Australian term for fucking.
I guess, yeah. Jack rooted him here. This is in Detroit. Referee Bat Masterson again.
That's incredible.
This is for the inaugural world lightweight title. This is the first time when they made lightweight a fucking
just came out.
Light heavyweight, yeah. Here, McCoy is down in the 2nd, 3rd, 7th, 8th, and 9th round. He's down 7 times total and saved by the bell at the end of the 2nd round as well.
Fascinating.
So he loses on points.
Really got his ass kicked.
He got his ass kicked good. Next up against Harry Plackey. He comes in 0-1. I guess Henry Plackey, sorry. Plackey was the champion of Holland. And it said he made a sorry spectacle of himself last night in a fight with Kid McCoy at the Lennox Club. Standing 6 inches taller and weighing over 70 pounds more than his pale-faced opponent, he was beaten almost insensible in less than 4 minutes. Plackey never laid a glove on McCoy except for when the men clenched, and the cool, calculating McCoy darted in and out and around his burly opponent almost like lightning. He would feint with his right, then drive his left to the face viciously, scarcely ever failing to bring the blood. Holy shit. Before the 1st round ended, Plackey was covered in blood from his neck to his waist, and both eyes were almost closed. Jesus. Before the gong sounded announcing the close of the 1st round, McCoy drove a vicious left flush to the chin, dropping Plackey like a log. The gong saved him from being knocked out. He was carried to his corner.
Oh, my God.
Only to be knocked out 10 seconds after the opening of the 2nd round.
Why would you allow that man to go back in there?
That is fucking crazy. McCoy feinted with his right, then drove a left square to the point of Plackey's nose. The later intuitively placed his left hand over the damaged organ and dropped to his knees. The blood was running from him in a stream. As he knelt by the ropes, the police appeared ringside and stopped the bout. Because anything more is going to be a crime. Stop this, please. Next up, Philadelphia Jack O'Brien.
Oh.
Old Philly Jack. I guess apparently it's a 6th round. It goes 6 rounds. It's a draw. Everybody says it was kind of dull. There wasn't really a whole lot going on in the fight. Next up, Jack Twin Sullivan. This one's out in Los Angeles. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wins on points in 20 rounds in this one.
Jesus Christ.
20. A little bit more on the Philadelphia Jack O'Brien fight from a newspaper. Quote, McCoy was matched with a behemoth named Herb Plack, and the bout took place. Oh, no, that's the other one. The Rumble, never mind, it's the other one. I fucked. Oh, okay. That's right, the Plack fight, the Henry Plack fight when he beat the living shit out of him. This is the one where I guess he said, this is the one where he said your shoe's untied and then fucking knocked him down.
Made hamburger of his face.
Yeah. Finally, his wife, or now ex-wife, calls out the Corbett fight too, McCoy's ex-wife.
Oh, really?
She said the fight was fake and every sporting man in town knows it. McCoy did not train knowing Corbett was to lie down. Half an hour before the fight, Corbett refused to lie down and gave Kid the double cross. McCoy was so mad that he would not shake hands. It was true that McCoy had neglected the conventional bumping of gloves, but he denied the rest. He said, quote, I fought a bad and wrong kind of fight by smothering up and not being the aggressor. He said he was unhurt until he received the hard punch in the stomach, a spot where it does not take a very hard punch to incapacitate one from being able to fight for a few seconds or allowed to recover. Corbett's wife then changed her story and said the fight wasn't fixed, but she was about to divorce Corbett and wanted to get it back at him, because this was Corbett's wife, not McCoy. Sorry. Jesus Christ. Then Julia, Corbett's wife, was embarrassed by the scandal and divorced him over it. Not Corbett, kid McCoy. Sorry. Then didn't divorce him and all this type of thing. But she ended up meeting a Yale coxswain from the rowing crew team who she went to Japan with. She ran away to Japan with, which is crazy. So then she found another one here. She got married to Indianola Arnold. Remember I told you that one in 1903. She played Dorothy in the original Wizard of Oz on Broadway, right? on stage. Yeah, she toured around. She's the original Dorothy.
Interesting.
Okay. Jesus Christ. The kid, what does it say here? Okay, yes, got hitched to blah, blah, blah. The kid also got hitched, as it were, to Lionel Barrymore, an admirer studying McCoy for the part of Kid Gravy. Oh, that's right. Lionel Barrymore, by the way, is Drew Barrymore's great-grandfather.
Is that right?
Yeah, because then there's John Barrymore. Yeah, her whole family's Hollywood royalty. That's why. Yeah. Oh, that's why. This guy wanted to cast him in a movie after that. There we go. Okay. A playwright could see the resemblance between Barrymore and McCoy from a half block away. They want him to play Barrymore. Apparently, he looks like him. Yeah. Wow. I guess it was easy to mistake one for the other. There you go. Barrymore's success with the part was no less pronounced in 1903-1904 than McCoy's identification with the play, which he attended nightly to see himself reenacted. Yeah, apparently Barrymore did a show about him, and where Barrymore played McCoy. And McCoy showed up every night to watch it because he's a narcissist. 1904, he declares bankruptcy. The kid does. Yeah. 1905 is when he married the heiress. There you go. And 1904, by the way, his bankruptcy said he had $25,000 worth of debts and no assets. The debts included one of $320 for clothing and one of $569 for repairs to a, quote, fast red car.
A fast one.
Yep. So that's when he married the heiress. After that, he married the heiress. In 1906, holy shit, he was head of a firm of diamond dealers, and everybody said they were smuggling diamonds. They're smugglers is what they are. In 1907, he was the superintendent of the National Detective Agency.
What is that?
What the fuck? He said he wasn't suited for this. He said that he had read Arthur Conan Doyle and Edgar Allan Poe, and he said, quote, "Try as I will, I cannot detect, though." It's like, I tried.
I want so bad to view them, but I can't do it.
So he started selling and racing cars, and he was caught speeding and fined and lost his license. He, quote, dug up a load of ancestors to fill out bare branches of his family tree because he wanted to break into high society. So he was trying to find out if he knew anybody.
Am I related to anybody important?
Oh, my God. And also, according to the Telegraph, he made claims upon $200 million estate of Lord Hume of London, to whom he said he was closely related.
You're going to place claim? You can just do that? Place claim on millions of dollars and be like, we're blood. We're kin.
Jesus Christ. I have no idea. He invested in... He would trade in jewelry, lost his money there. He again declared bankruptcy after the rich lady divorced him.
Yeah.
He's a fucking mess, basically. He then sailed to Europe and sparred with a Belgian poet, Maurice Maeterlinck. I'm sure people know who that is if they know poetry, but I don't. Then he settled in London to run a, quote, physical regeneration establishment. Selling dick pills? What are you doing there? At a fashionable hotel. It's probably like a spa, physical regeneration, at a fashionable hotel. There, he wrote a reporter at the Washington Star in 1912, quote, this is what a reporter wrote about him, quote, "One feels that McCoy is constantly posing. At the present time, a 10-minute talk with the ex-pugilist is sure to include a little new thought, a mixed philosophy culled from a more or less complete reading of Hegel, Kant, and Nietzsche, and sprinkling of his own unique personality. He was arrested as a jewel smuggler, mistaken identity, apologized the British police. I am very pleased to be exonerated," said McCoy. "I was never dishonest in my life." In my life.
Not even that fight.
He then becomes a trainer here.
For
So
fighters?
for whoever. Here's an article from 1905. He will handle the ball players if they will follow instructions.
Oh.
Charles Kid McCoy, boxer and expert on physical culture, may train the champion giants in the South. McCoy is now in Hot Springs and is said he has taken kindly to the suggestion that he too, the preliminary work of President Brush's men in the training camp. Manager McGraw, Tug is the 70s, John McGraw.
Yeah.
He's one of the fucking most famous people in baseball history. He was a manager for 50 years and shit. He was huge, of the Giants. This is the New York Giants we're talking about. This is crazy. And Manager McGraw and McCoy may have discussed the subject several times in Hot Springs, but arrangements for the actual engagement of McCoy have not been completed. McCoy and McGraw are warm friends while discussing athletics while discussing athletics the other evening. The subject of McCoy going south to get the New York players into physical trim came up. "I'll go in a minute," said McCoy, "and I'll venture to say that if your players follow my instructions, they will go to the post. They will go to the post fit to battle for the pennant as they never did before."
Okay.
Okay.
He's very
now,
confident in his ability.
what he should do, though, before that is check on more sales. Make sure he's... Okay. Now, you need... This might be for the ladies, but he might need it. Mott's Pennyroyal Pills. There you go.
What do those do?
They overcome weakness, irregularity, and omissions. Increase vigor of menstruation, or increase vigor and banish pains of menstruation.
Okay.
They are lifesavers to girls at womanhood, aiding development of organs and body. No known remedy for women equals them. Cannot do harm. Life becomes a pleasure. $1 per box by mail, sold by druggists. Isn't that what people used to mix for abortions back then?
I don't know.
That was part of it. Yeah, because I remember that on Deadwood. That is
vinegar?
what
What is it?
Trixie talked about. Pennyroyal pills.
I don't know what it is.
There's something to that they thought could do whatever.
Okay.
I don't know if it's true or not, but
your misread was way worse. And increase vigor of menstruation.
It says increase vigor and banish pains of menstruation. So increase your vigor, not the vigor of your menstruation. That's true. Next up, it says social tragedy. Look at this. I got to show you this. Roll your chair over here. Check this out. Look at this lady.
Oh,
just
God.
a Victorian lady, dead on the floor
Dead.
with one hand on her chest and the other out splayed. It says women who brave death for social honors. In the midst of one of the most brilliant social functions of the season, a noted society woman started suddenly from her chair with a scream of agony and fell insensible to the floor. A few hours later, the distinguished physician told her anxious husband that she was suffering from an acute case of nervous prostration brought on by female trouble and hinted at an operation.
She fainted because her period's so bad?
It's just the ovaries make you crazy sometimes and you faint. That's what they used to think back then. Cheer up, bitch, and they give you these pills. That's a small-town murder reference if you don't know. Fortunately, a friend advised her to try... What is this? A friend advised her to try... What is this shit here? To try Lydia E. Pinkham's vegetable compound. That'll do it. The result was that
cucumber.
That's what's compounded. The result was that she escaped the surgeon's knife and is today a well woman.
Oh,
yeah. The derangement of the delicate female organism sets every nerve in the body quivering with pain. Headaches, backaches, torturing, bearing down pains, and dragging sensations make women nervous and hysterical.
That darn vagina.
My darn insides and vagina. Here is a Mrs. Chester Curry wrote this letter. Dear Mrs. Pinkham, who it's her vegetable compound, I was troubled for 8 years with irregularities, which broke down my system and brought extreme nervousness and hysteria. I could neither enjoy my meals nor sleep nights, became easily irritated and nervous and very despondent. Lydia E. Pinkham's vegetable compound proved to be the only medicine which helped me. After taking the 3rd bottle, my general health began to improve, and at the end of the 5th month, I was well and could attend to my household and social duties and enjoy life. There you go.
Thank God for the vegetables.
Here's another thing here. It's just a product. It says every woman is interested and should know about this wonderful Marvel whirling spray. Roll your chair over. What the fuck is this?
Whirling spray.
It's like a pump, it's like a super soaker. That's a thing that comes out of the end. This is the thing that goes into your vagina.
Oh my God, it's a douche.
It's a douche type of bit. It's like a
the whirling douche.
Yeah, like a permanent douche bag. It's like having metal chopsticks, you know what I mean?
But it's like a tornado of a douche.
Well, that's what it's. Well, let's hear what it says here. Marvel Whirling Spray, the new vaginal syringe, injection and suction.
Oh!
Best, safest, most convenient. It cleanses instantly. Ask your druggist for it if he cannot supply Marvel, accept no other, but send stamp for illustrated book. It gives full particulars and directions, invaluable to ladies. $1.
You need a druggist to give you that.
Holy.
You can't be trusted just to pick it up off the shelf.
No, you need somebody to help me out with that. I'm too hysterical. How could I pick it out? How could a lady pick it out when she's all hysterical all the time? Next up, apparently this is a night at Keith's. This is a theater of some kind.
Yeah.
These are the acts. The Great Golden, comic juggler and skillful illusionist. A big hit.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Reno and Richards, comedy acrobats in a screamingly funny act. I bet it's hilarious.
Comedy acrobats? Isn't acrobatics funny enough?
Yeah, look, he hit his... How many times do you hit your head? Foy and Clark, an original eccentric comedian and clever singing Sowbrit. Okay. Ida Mule, the dainty comic opera singer in character songs with changes. So
everything's funny.
She makes parody songs. She's a Weird Al. That's exactly what it is. In character songs with changes. Catherine Osterman, assisted by Thomas Toother in a one-act farce, The Kickapoo. Okay. Master Joe Santley, boy soprano. Then there's Mimic 4, burlesque comedians and vocalists, Morton and Elliott, musical oddities, E.W. Palfrey, a trick bicyclist, Millie Christina's trained dogs and monkeys and other attractions. Wow. Prices are 75 cents for right at the ringside there, 50 cents for the circle, 50 cents for the balcony. Not bad.
Hurry up, because the boy soprano's going to go through puberty and ruin his career.
It's going to ruin everything. So he decides to box more in 1905 because he's broke.
God.
He's declaring bankruptcy and shit here. He fights, let's see, his next 5 fights. He fights a guy that's debuting. Jack Crawford beats him in the first round. He fights Peter Marr again.
Yeah.
Who now is 131, 23, and 7.
Oh, boy.
He's fought a lot. He knocks him out in the second round. Next up, he fights Jim Stewart. Apparently, newspaper decision from the New York Times, this is what it says. Thoroughly buffaloed, Stewart froze and refused to lead, even running away from McCoy in the third and fourth rounds. The fans jeered the bigger man and called for McCoy to finish him, but McCoy was exhausted from chasing Stewart around the ring. So it's a win on decision points here. Couldn't do it. He then beats Jack Fitzgerald here. It's a slow fight, decision in 6 rounds. Next up, he fights Bob Day here and knocks him out in the minute and 35 seconds. He fights Kid L, who's 16-0 coming into this fight, and knocks him out in the first round. So
Kid W.
Kid L is more like it here. Yeah. Kid L. Definitely.
Kid lost?
Kid lost, yeah. No, our kid won. Kid McCoy beat Kid L.
Okay.
Next up, Jim Savage here. Apparently, in the fourth round, McCoy looked like shit the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
And looked out of gas, and the guy was just doing whatever he wanted. In the fourth round, Savage dropped his gloves and said, "Right here, motherfucker." He did like Love After Lockup.
Yeah.
Stuck his jaw out. McCoy did and knocked him out cold.
Knocked his puss ass out.
That's right. Exactly what he did. Don't do that to a professional fighter.
Never.
He knows how to punch.
Right.
Next up, he beats Harry Croxon in 3 rounds. And there, next up, George Gunther. He beats by points. Next up, this will be his last fight, I believe, here. He fights Petty Officer Matthew Nutty Curran.
Yeah, fights an actual,
1912, because the war is starting. World War I in Europe's kicking off here.
Yeah.
And he is a British seaman.
Okay.
There you go. This fight goes all 20 rounds.
Oh, boy.
All 20 rounds, apparently. The bout was scheduled for 20. He's 40 years old at this point, or 39. We don't know. Right. Apparently, it says 3/4 of the way through it, McCoy's feet had gone nearly flat. His nerves were snapping in his body like little twigs. The fuck does that mean? Suddenly, the timekeeper, sitting by the ring in his evening clothes, took a tall glass of whiskey and soda from an attendant and placed it carefully on the apron of the ring. A moment later, Kid ran into a punch on purpose from Curran, fell to the floor near the timekeeper's seat, snatched up the high ball and drank it. He needed a drink mid-fight. The fight went the full distance. It was close, but McCoy got the win on points.
Really?
So he's got about 81 wins, somewhere between 76 and 81 wins, 6 losses that we know of, 9 no decisions, and 6 disqualifications of different kinds.
Not bad. That's
a
great
lot.
career.
Absolutely. 1913, he was running an auto bluff.
What is
What that is, and advising the Chicago News, get your bluff in first. That's a rule of life that applies to motoring as well as fighting. I think he's racing is what he is here. So he's doing all of this shit. He also he does some World War I tour in Europe.
Really?
Here goes on a fight tour, like an exhibition tour for the troops. And McCoy and a group of boxing friends apparently got too close to the fighting at the German front lines during World War I.
Holy shit.
One boxer was killed and 4 were injured.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Well, on his way back to America, he was arrested on charges of grand larceny by the Belgian government.
Stealing cars or something?
Something. Well, he was alleged to have stolen $250,000 worth of jewelry.
Oh.
Belonging to, which is like $40 million.
It's so much money.
Belonging to the Belgian princess. You stole the princess's jewelry? That's not a good thing. His friends maintained he was innocent and that it was a case of mistaken identity. Wow. He was later released and returned to the United States. He also, around this time, entered some service things here. He served with the National Guard along the Mexican border and as a recruiter, while other accounts of him have him in the Army as a boxing instructor. So either way, the government pays him for a while. Then he becomes an actor.
Oh?
Bunch of silent films.
Mm-hmm.
He's in 1916, Betty of Greystone, starring Dorothy Gish, which was she was a big star back then.
Right.
Super big star here. He plays Weed's son. Whatever that is. 1918, The House of Glass. Ooh. He plays Detective Carroll in this one here. 1919, he also fights again for some reason.
Huh.
He fights a guy named Steve Dalton and beats him in 4 rounds on points. So, oh no, this is a reffing fight. That's a ref. He didn't fight that. He reffed that fight. Next up, 1919, he's in Broken Blossoms. The description is a frail waif abused by her brutal boxer father in London's seedy Limehouse district is befriended by a sensitive Chinese immigrant with tragic consequences.
Okay.
That's wow. Directed by D.W. Griffith, by the way, who's a very famous director and kind of the first isn't he the one who made Birth of a Nation, though? That's not good.
I don't know.
That's the story of basically like
the Hitler thing?
No. Birth of a Nation is about how great the Klan is, and like it's crazy. Yeah, it helped repopularize the Klan in the early 1900s. That movie.
My God.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. So this one starred Lillian Gish. So the Gish girls like him. He plays a prize fighter. Well, no shit. Next up, The Hushed Hour. He's in here. The 4 grown children of prominent Judge Appleton each spend 1 hour of meditation at his funeral to honor his last request, which allows them to see their lives unfold before them. He plays Kid McCoy.
Okay, yeah.
And it's a bunch of people who sit and then have like their lives. It's through meditative dreams bullshit. Just, it's a way to get dream sequences in.
Right.
That's all. Next up, he's in a movie called Secret Service. And that the description, Louis Dumont, a Northern officer in the American Civil War, works undercover behind Confederate lines in an attempt to lead Southern forces away from an area in which a Northern attack is planned. But Dumont falls in love with a Southern girl when she proves useful to his plan. His conscience begins to tear at him.
Everything's Romeo and Juliet.
It's all they made back then.
It's all forbidden love.
Because it has to be these big gestures because it's silent. So it has to be just, I want you, oh God, and hold your chest and put your arms out. He plays Lieutenant Foray.
Mm-hmm.
Next, he's in Eyes of Youth. A young woman at a crossroads is shown what her future would be like for each choice. Another one with like a dream sequence where your life is mapped out. He plays Dick Brownell at that point. Dick Brown, that's not good. 1920, Dick Brownell. He's in The Honeybee, this one here. Jesus Christ. He plays Carpentier in this one. All right. There's apparently a bunch of fighting and boxing in this movie. The 14th Man he's in next.
What is that?
During a quarrel at his Scottish inn, Captain Gordon wounds another officer and flees to New York with Detective Jenks on his trail. Once there, he meets Marjorie Seaton, an heiress whose uncle Tid Marsh is trying to marry to the profligate Windsor. This is too much. I don't know who the fuck these people are.
He's trying to woo her away from him.
Yeah. It stars a guy named Robert Warwick, who kids in a few of Robert Warwick's movies. This guy worked until the 60s.
Really?
Like, all in movies and then all the beginning of television. He's in tons of television. Like, if you're older and you watch TV in the late 50s and early 60s, you'd see this guy and go, oh, yeah, that guy. Like, you know exactly who he is. Yeah, exactly, obviously. Except very white. He plays Dwight Sylvester in this one, McCoy does. Now, he's got other issues here. He gets married at this point to Dagmar Dahlgren.
Yeah.
She's a.k.a. Carmen Crowder. Dagmar Dahlgren's her stage name. Okay. They get married in Los Angeles, April 22nd, 1920. They live together for 3 days. And then she decides, this is crazy.
He seems like a pain in the ass to be around.
Their divorce is finalized September 20th. So they're married for like 5 months.
Hilarious.
Total, legally. Next up in 1920, he's at a quote from the newspaper here, New York Herald. Notable gathering of former title holders revives stirring memories of their famous fights. So he's there. During this, by the way, there's a mixed martial arts fight. There's an MMA fight on the card. This is 1920. Let me read this to you. Quote, a Japanese of jiu-jitsu proclivities and a German wrestler with boxing gloves on his hands were in a boxing ring in the grand ballroom of the Hotel Commodore a few nights ago in an effort to demonstrate the relative merits of pugilism and the bone-snapping tactics of the Japanese man. So that's MMA. That's to see which,
UFC's beginning.
It's exactly what it is. It looked like a tussle between a terrier and a mastiff. The novelty of the combat held the attention of the large and notable gathering, including which were judges of the Supreme Court, an operatic prima donna, legislators, scientists, and men and women of prominent in professions and business.
Everybody loves it.
Everybody loves it, yeah, and they go on to talk about the fight, which doesn't fucking matter. So, seated near Corbett was Norman Selby, who boxed under the name Kid McCoy. He was a notable performer with gloved hands while lacking the avoiduripos necessary, I don't know what the fuck that is, necessary for contests with the ring giants of those days, with a most dangerous opponent for anyone, large or small. McCoy still wears the same cold, sneering look on his pale face that his adversaries saw as they looked across the ring in preview to a combat with the originator of the corkscrew punch. Oh boy! They also bring up that his complexion gives an impression of ill health in this and everything else.
Like that.
Oh my God! He looks today as he did on a memorable occasion in a western town where he had been matched to fight the village champion, a burly, red-necked, heavy-muscled chap. After one look at the pale, emaciated McCoy, the village favorite declared that he would not fight as he did not desire to be locked up on a charge of manslaughter. Only after assurances from those acquainted with McCoy's boxing reputation did the local champion consent to go on with the bout. In less than a minute of the first round, McCoy's right collided with his opponent's chin, and the big chap crashed to the ring floor. There you go. Fucking idiot.
That's his thing.
That's what he does. 1921, he's in a movie called Straight from the Shoulder. These are westerns he's in now. This is Bill Higgins arrives in a small western mining town and immediately causes trouble with the residents. There we go. This stars a man named Buck Jones. Buck Jones worked until the 40s doing Westerns.
Really?
He's in a million of them. A lot of them were a string of movies under the character of Marshall Buck Roberts was his name. So he made a ton of movies which were like the Marshall Buck Roberts movies. Back then they used to make a whole series of, they'd make 20 movies about a main character, just like a TV show. They didn't have TV, so it was basically like a season of a TV show.
John Wayne was essentially the most current of that same shit.
Yeah, exactly. Here, these movies are, and the names of the movies the guy's in, Marshall Buck Roberts movies, Gunman from Bodie, Arizona Bound, Riders of Death Valley, White Eagle, Wagons Westward, California Frontier, Law of the Texan, The Stranger from Arizona. You get the idea.
Yeah.
They're all the same fucking
horseshit. Yeah.
Southwestern horseshit. McCoy plays Bill Higgins in that. He then is in a movie called To a Finish, which is some kind of, it has nothing to do with boxing, which is the weird thing. It has to do with like cattle rustling and shit. It's very weird. It stars Buck Jones again. McCoy plays Wolf Gary.
Yeah.
Is that like Turkey Creek Jack McCoy
Probably.
or whatever? Yeah. So he then is in Bucking the Line, where he plays a guy named Jerry. This is another fucking railroad construction gang at Western shit. 1922, Oathbound. And this one is just, they had no description. It just had a girl tied up on the poster like by railroad tracks, like typical old Western shit.
Yep.
Silent movie, villain dumps the woman. He plays Hicks in that one. He then refs a match that year as well. Refs a match between Reggie Kerr and Tommy Hess. 1922, he almost marries a woman named Jacqueline McDowell. Okay, but after embarking on a train from Baltimore to meet him in Los Angeles, she thought better of it and got off in Detroit and telegrammed him that she's going back home. Never mind.
She Dear John'd him with a telegram.
With a telegram from Detroit. He then plays, he's in a movie called Tom Mix in Arabia. And this is a guy, Tom Mix, yeah. He's a Western actor. He's in a shitload of Westerns, and here he's got a turban on.
Tom, Jesus.
And he's holding a, quote, Arab girl, but it's just a white girl with like a scarf on her head. Like, it's ridiculous. McCoy plays Pussyfoot Boggs.
Yeah, that was a term, and that's not good. That's weird.
No, it is. 1923, When Gale and Hurricane Met. And he plays, quote, Gale's opponent.
Oh.
There you go. Next up, a movie called April Showers, which was very ahead of its time because it was about peeing on each other.
Yeah.
So that was very different.
And the follow-up sequel of Mayflowers?
Mayflower, that probably assumed. This is a comedy, apparently.
Oh.
He plays a ring manager. He also referees a match that year as well.
I bet there's a porn star
Beach.
named April that there's a whole series of
April
dudes just
Showers.
pissing on her. Yeah.
Absolutely. Or she's peeing on them. It's April's Showers.
Yeah.
24, he's in a movie called Sherlock's Home.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll bet you there's a porn named that.
You know there is. And it's quote, Gladys falls for a prize fighter who has invited his entire hometown to watch his fight in New York City. However, he gets crazy jealous when he sees Gladys at the fight sitting next to Jimmy. After the bout is over, he sets out for the hotel to teach Jimmy a lesson.
What?
I don't know. He's uncredited in that. Also, in this year, he trains Charlie Chaplin to play a fighter in a comedic movie as well.
I think I've seen that.
There's a picture of him, of Charlie Chaplin, like all jokey with him, putting his hands up. It's in like a backyard.
Right.
And there's like a big guy kneeling behind him. That's Kid McCoy.
Wow.
That's Kid. He hung out with Charlie Chaplin.
Is it called
They were
The
buddies.
Fighter or something like that?
It might be. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think I've seen it. Is Charlie in like a striped singlet almost?
It looks like an old bathing suit.
Yeah.
It looks like.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've seen it.
Look,
I've seen that
you
movie.
can see
That's fascinating.
There's the picture of them training, and it's in the backyard, and Charlie's like, put him up, like making the silly thing, and
Charlie
McCoy's
was
just behind him with his chest out, like kneeling down.
I love
It's
Charlie,
interesting.
and it really bothers me how much he loved children. I hate it so much.
Yeah, that is bad. He's
That
the Woody
is
Allen
so
of his
awful.
time.
Yeah, it's so awful.
He really is. It's bad. Although at least Charlie Chaplin didn't marry his adopted daughter. It's a little better.
And Charlie made amazing movies. They are so good.
Yeah,
They're still so good.
Charlie was talented as fuck back then. He, by the way, at one point when McCoy was being sued for something, he was in court. Chaplin was in court in the same courthouse at the same time suing someone for stealing his act. Some guy was
Really?
dressing up like Charlie Chaplin, going around saying he was Charlie Chaplin. Back then, you could do that.
Well, Charlie, you should probably still be arrested for child molestation. So
And then
maybe
there's
you
that.
Don't
Hey,
be
that's
around.
that's perfectly legal back then, pal.
I married her.
I married her. So McCoy, Kid was charged with fraud when he was associated with an oil stock scandal when he allowed his name to be used to scam some shit. He also liked to drive his car very fast. He was hauled into court for speeding on Wilshire Boulevard in California
No
there.
way, yeah.
He was clocked at, are you ready for this fucking speed?
Oh,
We've had a lot of
68?
speeds. We've had a lot of speeds. 130. We've had
Yeah.
guys 33 miles an hour.
Oh,
you
you
fucking
speed-
maniac. You maniac. Maniac.
Do you know I found
My
out
God.
today that today's the anniversary of the very first automobile death. Do you want to know how fast that car was going? 8. Fucking
Oh, yeah.
8.
8. Yeah. It was just
How'd you not get out of the way of it?
It was just made of things that would crumble and cut your body to pieces. So he files for bankruptcy again. He ends up meeting an attractive woman who just happens to be married. And she's in the process of filing for divorce, but it's because of him. Her name is Mrs. Teresa Moores. And her husband, Albert, was a wealthy antiques dealer in Hollywood, and what a lot of people said was kind of an underworld kind of cat, too.
Oh.
Yeah, he's one of these half gangster guys here. Now, he also tries to get a job at this point, Kid McCoy does. He goes to a large life insurance company, and he approached them for a job, and the guy who interviewed him said Norman Selby, told me he was anxious to do something that would be a credit to his former profession. He told me that Billy Sunday had done such a thing for baseball when he entered the ministry, and he wanted to reflect credit to prize fighting in some similar way. He was impressed by opportunities offered in selling life insurance.
Oh.
There you go. But he doesn't get that job, or he doesn't take that job, because let's talk a little more about Teresa Moores here. Teresa Weinstein was her original name. Moores is her married name. She was about to divorce Albert E. Moores, her husband, here when she starts hooking up with McCoy.
Right.
She is apparently very pretty lady. Albert's a very rich man, and they don't know how they met, but apparently there was a police matter at some point, and the police were taking record of who everybody was. The police listed McCoy as Teresa's bodyguard in a report. Okay. The police had been called in by Moores, who complained by Albert Moores, the husband, that his wife Teresa and McCoy had used him roughly. Interesting. Apparently, Teresa and McCoy came over to have a chat with Albert about how the property was going to be divided in a divorce, and tried to scare the shit out of him. And this guy called the cops. So that's how it went. And he was roughing him up a little bit, and there you go. And apparently during this, he didn't even beat up McCoy, didn't even beat up Albert Moores. Teresa was the one that punched Moores in the mouth.
Oh.
And then when Albert Moores went to go back at her, McCoy protected her, said, "Don't you take another step."
Yep.
So anyway, they ended up getting a divorce. So McCoy and Teresa take an apartment together under the names Mr. and Mrs. N. Shields.
What?
Back then, no apartment would let you live in. You're half divorced. You'd have to act like you were a married couple.
Some sin around here.
Mm-hmm. They said that there was basically he wanted to marry her. That's where this is going, and she didn't want to get married right then because they fight all the time, and she's in the middle of getting a divorce. So he apparently, before all this started, he had been working as a bodyguard for Albert. Carrying a gun and everything. So that's why I think Albert might be a little shady here. But then he was banging the wife and all that sort of thing. Now, this all happened. They're living together. And on the night of August 11th into the morning of August 12th, 1924, some crazy shit happens here. T.I. Hollingsworth, a night watchman at a garage adjoining Nottingham Apartments where McCoy and Mrs. Moores lived, is, a couple there. Right. He's going to have some shit to say. Also, B.S. Barackman, manager of the Wilshire Pharmacy at 7th and Hoover, he would later say that McCoy was in the pharmacy on 3 different occasions between 8 and 9 o'clock on August 11th there at night. He said McCoy was obviously intoxicated. And they said a meeting later on, they said that McCoy said that he wasn't drunk, and they tried to argue with the guy that he was drunk. And Barackman said to him, "You're pretty drunk, kid. Don't get in any trouble." And he said, "I'm in trouble already," and left. That was that. So now Hollingsworth, the other guy, T.I. Hollingsworth, he said McCoy came to his garage at 11:30 p.m. and drove away in a new Cadillac sedan. This was Teresa's car that had been in the garage.
Oh.
All right. He said, the garage guy said it's the first time McCoy ever came to the garage without Teresa, but, you know, whatever. So he comes home drunk, and Teresa, they get in an argument, apparently. Apparently, Teresa was telling him that her friends didn't like him and he wasn't good enough and that she was going to go back to her husband and all of this type of shit, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They get into a fight. At some point, he punched her and knocked some teeth out of her mouth. Then it gets worse. A few minutes after midnight, a neighbor hears a woman's voice cry out, quote, "Oh, my God, don't do that," over and over again.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Then came a single gunshot. All right. The neighbor investigated, but only trying to figure out who was in there. They tried the door to their apartment, and it was locked. So 10 a.m. the next morning, the janitor comes in, and they have like a cleaning service. The janitor comes in and finds Teresa lying dead on the floor of the bedroom. Okay. She'd been shot once in the left temple. A .32 pistol was within 10 feet of her.
Yeah.
And a photograph of Kid McCoy was in her hand across her chest. Okay.
What?
It was in a locket. There was a locket with a photograph of Kid McCoy in a bathing suit in there. And also, clearly visible was a suicide note as well. In the suicide note, it's not her suicide note. It's a suicide note signed Norman Selby, leaving his estate to his mother. But she's dead.
What the fuck?
Okay. Now, at some point here, he did this. We'll talk about what he did because he did more than that. He then got shit-faced after he killed her at some point here. He got shit-faced and drove around looking for Albert to take care of him, too. He's like, well, killed her, might as well kill Albert, too. So he returned to the garage, where the Hollingsworth guy is, at about 1:30 a.m. and left the car there and left. In about 15 minutes, he came back again and drove the car away again.
Okay.
McCoy does. He was in Hollywood after 3 a.m., and that 2 Hollywood police officers drove him home, where he got probably pulled over for being shit-faced. They drove him home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Street young man.
Yep, where he was registered at his apartment as Mr. and Mrs. Shields. McCoy, according to the report of the officers, was intoxicated when they picked him up near the Hollywood police station. He had sufficient presence of mind, however, to keep the officers out of his apartment when they attempted to enter it after taking him there. In their report, officers said they noticed the bed was down, it's one of those Murphy beds, and that there was a pile of bedding on the floor. The detectives believed that Mrs. Moore's body was there when they had gone to the apartment.
Well, yeah.
The bullet entered a half-inch in front of the left ear and lodged behind the left eye, the autopsy showed.
Damn it.
She also was stabbed and cut a couple of times.
Really?
Laceration of the upper lip, 3/4 of an inch in extent and completely through the lip, and a cut a half-inch deep and 5/8 of an inch long on the left forearm. That's where he sliced her with a knife, approximately 1 inch below the wrist, and a puncture wound on the right side of the chest. Contusions on both arms and abrasions on the outer side of the right hip. He beat the shit out of her, too.
Sure did, yeah.
Knocked her around, stabbed her, and killed her. On the chest was found laceration or cut on the underside of the left forearm, another about an inch long, like we said. And all 3 of these cuts, even the lip cut, appeared to be made by a knife.
Really?
So he cut her 3 different times with a knife. I thought maybe he split the lip open when he punched her, but no.
Yeah.
Broke a tooth and cut it or something, but no. The cut on the knife could not have been made by a blow, it was said. Neither the gum nor the inside of the lip was injured at in that spot. There were bruises on the underside of both upper arms. The .32 caliber brevet automatic from which the bullet caused death was evidently fired, was laying on the floor approximately 10 feet from the body when the officers arrived. So about 4 a.m., he came back to the garage and drove and this is with the Hollywood police officer. They drove him there, then drove him home. This is crazy. Just hanging out with him for the fucking night. So they said that by that point he was so drunk he could hardly stand up. And they left. McCoy and the officer left the garage. Then 20 minutes later, McCoy returned to get the car. Once the cops
around,
seeing that he was too drunk to drive, really, Hollingsworth tried to get him to not take the car. He said, "Come on, don't take the car." And McCoy said he was, quote, going to Central Station. Hollingsworth said, "I tried to keep him from going and even offered to drive him down there and return in a taxi cab, but he only laughed and said, 'Oh, you don't know what I know,' and then left." Because he had killed somebody. He's like, "Nah, this isn't about convenience." Where he went was to his sister Jenny's house, apparently, to tell her that he killed Tess, which is Teresa, and he had nothing more to live for. So he just drank the rest of the night. And he even said at one point here, he was screaming all sorts of weird shit. Like he'd just be like, "I love her so much." Like he'd just yell. He's nuts. So the next morning he goes to the antique shop that Albert Moores owns, intent on getting him now too.
Yep.
Okay. So he's been drinking all night, driving around like a maniac. He wants to kill Albert. Albert's not there. He's not at the shop. Well, a bunch of other people who McCoy then held at gunpoint. The manager, the secretary, several customers, all sorts of shit.
For Al.
He said, "Nobody ever loved anyone like I loved Tess. I'd go to the electric chair for her," the witnesses.
Well, you're gonna.
Yeah. He stuffed money into the suit of a customer who confessed to carrying no cash. And the other, it's so weird. He gave this guy money. "I don't have any cash," and then he gave him money. They were like, "What the fuck?"
You should always carry cash.
He had two other men stripped to their underwear. Okay, then another guy tried to run out and escape, and he shot him in the leg.
Oh, my God.
McCoy bucked a shot off in the leg. Then he ordered one of the people that worked there to, quote, "strike up some music on that phonograph."
You're gonna need.
Yeah.
Gonna need a soundtrack to this.
He wanted like some show tunes or some shit, which is fucking crazy. Then he gets in his car, speeds over to the millinery shop owned by one of his friends. By the way, here, and he shoots both of these people as well.
Oh my! What?
For some reason, doesn't kill them, but shoots them and wounds them. It's fucking insane. It's absolutely nuts. So he told, when he was at the one store at Moore's place, he told everybody to take off their shoes and pants, put a dance record on the phonograph, and then went through the pockets of them for money. Then he cursed them. They said that it was the most foul-mouthed thing they've ever heard, all the things he was saying. The guy who tried to escape, he shot him. Another hostage was a 19-year-old man who was about to get married, a guy named Francis. He found out he was soon to be married. So McCoy gathered up all the money he stole from everyone, $300, which was a lot back then,
pretty good,
and gave it to this guy as a wedding present. Here you go. You take that. For you guys, you kids started out right.
I'm drunk Robin Hood.
It's beautiful. This woman later returned the money, though. She's like, "I can't take this shit." So, anyway, he then got Albert Moores never showed up, though.
Yeah.
He never showed up. He went and got a haircut, and after he got his haircut, his brand new Cadillac wouldn't start, so he couldn't make it to the shop.
Uh-huh.
So there you go. He saved his fucking life. So then McCoy went looking for booze, or went looking for his friend, the Schnapps people. I thought he was looking for Schnapps, the booze. He's looking for Schnapps, his friend. His friend called him a bum, so he shot and wounded him.
Oh, boy.
Then Jesus Christ, he did all this type of shit. And he said this was because he was angry. Later on, they think it was because he was angry that Tess wasn't going to give him any money. It's fucking crazy. So either way, they get him in and question him. And he said, "She killed herself. I didn't do anything. It was suicide. She's very sad." That's why she cut herself up, bruised herself, and shot herself in the head.
Stabbed herself good.
Then made sure that I went down and shot up her husband's employees.
Sent me off to almost murder people.
No shit. He said, quote, "She shot herself, I tell you. She was moody. Haven't you read all these fucking ads? We need to give her vagina pills or something. I don't know.
She need a whirling douche.
She needs vegetable compound now. She was moody, and we were talking when all of a sudden she tried to stab herself with a bread knife. Then she grabbed a gun and shot herself. Dear Teresa died in my arms."
It's a bad story.
Died in my arms.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Died in my arms. So there he is with his beloved just dead, limp in his arms as why, Lord? Why did you let this happen to her? Oh, God, tell me why. And just at that point, there's a thunderclap and the skies open up. And who's there? It is God. And God says to him, how is it you've come to arrive here, my son? Look at you. Not only have you killed someone, which I sort of frown on. I'll do it a lot, but I don't let others. That's not part of the whole thing. Not only that, but your story is complete bullshit. Sir, I'm sorry. It's just terrible. No one's buying it. And no one's buying it. You shouldn't be selling it, is what I'm telling you right now. I saw it from up here, like you said. And I saw it. What you did was terrible. Yeah. You've been full of shit your entire life. You have no redeeming value at this point. And frankly, I'm embarrassed that I created you. Really. You ever like make a meal and you burn it and then you present it to people and you want them to eat because that's all you have. So you made it. So you give that to, but you know they don't want it. That's you. That's what I look at. I look at you like a burnt piece of chicken. You're my burnt chicken. That's how lousy you are.
I'm sorry, it's dry. Just say it over and over again.
Fix what you're doing is what I mean. Or learn how to make a good sauce to go on top of it. But you are terrible. Goodbye. Poof. And in a cloud of angels and doves and clouds, he's gone. And he's like, how drunk am I, McCoy? Yeah. Holy shit. So they don't know what to do with him. They bring him in, and they're like, well, did she kill herself? And then they don't know if he's crazy. They don't know what happened. So eventually, though, the prosecutor comes out and says, we have sufficient evidence now to convict McCoy on a charge of murder. Following the inquest and probably next Tuesday, I will place the entire matter before the grand jury and ask that indictments on all charges are now against the prisoner. So they're going to charge him with murder. And they do charge him with murder. His own sister went and talked to the cops and told them everything that he said. And he came over to her house and said, oh, my God, I killed my sister. Right. Or I killed Tess. Oh, my God. Yeah. This is terrible. I did this. This is awful. It's not fucking good at all. So now it's fucking crazy. So now they go to court, okay? They go to trial. And they said they have sufficient evidence. They can do this, the prosecutor says. We have a good murder case and perfect cases on the other charges, which are assault with a deadly weapon, intent to murder, highway robbery, all those things that he did.
Highway robbery.
literally highway robbery. He asked lawyer Lewis Jones to defend him here, and he told Jones, stick around, kid. You'll see more fun here than you ever have in a courtroom in your life. He's like, I'm going to make it a party.
Yeah.
So the DA had to demonstrate that Therese had been shot from behind in cold blood, but, all that kind of shit. So, Jesus Christ. McCoy, they say, is in a this is his lawyer says, McCoy's in a state of mental shock now, and we do not think he should be allowed to talk until his mind clears up, if it ever does.
Yeah.
We feel that there is no doubt he was mentally unbalanced when he appeared at the store, and many of his friends feel that he had not been mentally right for a long time. Maybe it's for being beaten for 25 rounds at a time. Who knows? He testifies, though.
Wow.
He testifies. The New York Times said he looked like a, quote, mannequin perched on a ventriloquist knee. That's how they described him.
Okay.
They said, then he began to rehearse gesture by silent screen gesture the sad evening of August 12th. Teresa killed herself. She was the light of my life, and I never loved a woman really until I met her. He said they'd been in their apartment drinking scotch and soda out of a silver cup. He made sandwiches. Tess asked him to cut hers into morsels, which he did with a kitchen knife that she abruptly took to plunge into her bosom. He struggled with her, wrestled the knife away. Somehow she got a hold of his pistol. Another struggle. And it says here, Selby wrestled himself, stepping about with the agility of a younger Kid McCoy in the throes of a scene of shadowboxing. He did a whole pantomime performance of how he did it. The gun went off. For a moment, he did not know which of them had been shot. When that was obvious, he decided to end it all. He rested Tess on the floor, nestled a photograph of himself in her arms, and lay down beside her. Wrote his own suicide note and then didn't kill himself.
Right.
The verdict comes in. The jury deliberates for 78 hours.
Jesus.
That's a while. And they find him, quote, guilty of manslaughter.
Really?
Is what they find him guilty of. The jury was split between first-degree murder and acquittal, so they made a compromise of manslaughter.
You're saying this OJ shit is it's been going on for years.
That's wild, man. The sentence here, you, sir, may fuck off 10 years for the manslaughter.
Yeah.
Assault to commit murder, 7 years. Robbery, 7 years. Assault with a deadly weapon, 6 years. And they are to run all consecutively for a total of 24 years.
Not bad.
Is what he's got to go. So, yep, he said, he denied it, though. He said, I could always fight the men, but not the women. Couldn't do that. I have a soft spot for women.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this guy's fucked. You don't want to be Norman Selby, Kid McCoy. You really don't. I mean, you almost feel bad for him with all his brain damage, but not nearly as bad as I feel for Norman Selby, executive director at FIG in New Jersey. It's the Franklin Investment Group is what that is. Norman Selby retired at the Holy Trinity Lutheran Church in York Springs, Pennsylvania. And Norman C. Selby, chairman, Real Endpoints, LLC as well. These poor bastards.
Unbelievable.
In prison, he's a model prisoner. He raises canaries and teaches newcomers the ropes.
Wow.
Yes, he is assigned to work in the jute mill. It was a large building filled with weaving machines to make burlap bags for the farmers of the San Joaquin Valley.
Oh, God, what a
big
terrible
potato
job.
sacks.
Yeah.
They were required to produce, each inmate required to produce 100 yards of material a day. It's known as a very noisy, dusty, worst job there is there.
Yeah.
So apparently nobody fucked with him at all because they all knew who he was. The who's who of Hollywood would come to the prison by ferry to visit him, including such celebrities as Al Jolson, Sophie Tucker, and Lionel Barrymore.
Wow.
Yeah, hanging out with him. He did all of this at San Quentin here, and then he was on chain gangs as well here to clean up roads. And then he ended up being like the intake guy, like he would show new guys around.
Yeah.
Basically there. Then he becomes head of the San Quentin Fire Department.
What?
They make him the fire chief. I guess San Quentin would have a fire chief. Shit would catch on fire all the time, so he would do that, and he did. There, he was the chief of the San Quentin Fire Department, and the warden said he was very proud to have Kid McCoy in his prison, and he was a good subject to talk to about good subject to talk about at any civic meeting. Mm-hmm. Said he was great and terrific. He during his prison time here, famous people petitioned to get him out, to get a pardon. Also, the warden and the governor. The warden, they were all petitioning to the governor to get him out. Vice President of the United States, Charles Curtis, wrote a letter for him. General Douglas MacArthur wrote a letter for him. MacArthur.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Henry Ford wrote him a letter.
What?
Wrote a letter for him. And gentleman Jim Corbett, the guy he fought with a bunch. Yeah, all these people. So he was denied parole a couple of times here. But Henry Ford, because he didn't have a job lined up, Henry Ford heard about it and said, let him out and he's mine. I'll give him a job. I'll take care of him. He's my guy. So he gets him out, and he was the athletic director at the Ford plants in Detroit. It's like their softball teams and shit.
Keep him fucking athletic. Do they treat him like Nike, where they get him out to play all the time?
Possibly, yeah. I don't know what they probably have a softball team, or that's probably a big deal. He also later on appointed Selby director of the guards for the 12,000 company thrift gardens. Off work, he spoke to church groups about everything and dietary causes of juvenile delinquency. He said posture and diet causes juvenile delinquency.
You've got to be kidding me. Stand up straight and have a sandwich, or you'll steal shit.
If your parents don't tell you to stand up straight and don't feed you, then yeah, you might be a juvenile delinquent. That's more about how you're being neglected than anything else. It's not the cause. He also, 1932, he works for Henry Ford. Then 1935, he witnesses a boat overturning on Lake Michigan with 7 family members aboard.
Uh-huh.
So he rushed into the water and rescued 5 children, repeatedly diving to pull each child to safety.
He went down to get them.
The parents didn't survive, but he saved all the
What?
kids. And by the time he got to the parents, they were dead, but he saved the kids first. For his action, the state of Michigan wanted to bestow on him a Medal of Bravery, but he refused the honor.
I won't take it.
I won't take it.
Anybody would have done it.
1937, he marries Sue Cobb Cowley. Time to get married again here. And, he does that. And also 1937, he receives a full pardon for the murder of Teresa Moores.
What the fuck?
Don't know why. He pondered a vaudeville tour, then just got married instead. And, he grew agitated at this point at the news from Europe. He got mad at Hitler taking over Europe and the rise of Nazi Germany. He got all upset about it, and he got super depressed and despondent. He thought the world was over, basically, and the world's falling apart. And, I mean, it almost did. So it almost was over. It was over for a lot of people. So he was so depressed, he couldn't. He usually tried to do shit with kids. He couldn't do that anymore. He said that he would. He came up with something called health suspenders, some kind of thing that you wore that was to help you be healthy, and none of the kids liked it, and he didn't know what to do. And Hitler was rising, and he didn't know what to do. So on April 18th, 1940, when Nazi troops had just gone into Denmark, he told his wife he had to go to Chicago on business. Apparently the Nazis going into Denmark, he lost his mind, and he really was upset about it.
Yeah.
Told his wife he's going to Chicago on business. He's living in Detroit. He checks into a Detroit hotel and eats a shitload of sleeping pills and kills himself. Dead.
Stop it.
Fucking dead.
Hitler killed him?
Yeah, well, probably all those blows to the head cause a lot of easily depressed things to have a lot of depression. So, yeah.
Wow.
He wrote 3 suicide notes, one to his wife, one to his job, and one to general population here.
Stick around a few years, man. Don't worry. There's a happy ending.
Hear it. To whom it may concern, 4/17/40 at the Grand Circus Hotel in Detroit, Michigan, on their stationery. This is a screenshot of it they have here. For the past 8 years, I have wanted to help humanity, especially the youngsters who do not know nature's laws. This is in his cursive, so it's hard. That is the people, the something carriage of the body and the right way to eat, etc. Everything in my possession, I want to go to my dear wife, Sue Selby. To all my dear friends, I wish you the best of luck. Sorry I couldn't endure the world's madness. The best to you all, sincerely, Norman Selby. P.S. In my pocket, you will find $17.78. My home address is 119 something Park, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And he put his telephone number on it, too. Call his wife.
Why would you put that in your pocket, man? Just put it on the nightstand so we don't have to touch a corpse.
No shit. There's a cop and a hotel manager looking over it, and the one said Norman Selby, it says on the note. And Selby was how he checked in. Wasn't that his right name, the detective said? Or he said, the hotel manager said, was that his right name? And the detective said it was his right name, but he was also McCoy, the real McCoy.
How about that?
And he's dead. Variety magazine, because he's an actor, put a obituary. It had been a daffy world for McCoy. He had been a convict, social lion, saloon porter, hero of a short story classic, dishwasher, owner of a New York jewelry store and nightclub, a bankrupt film actor, auto racer, confidant of Maurice Maeterlinck, and in recent years, a Ford employee. He's done a lot. People, this is one of the Sharkey, Tom Sharkey, that he fought.
The sailor.
Yeah, he said, quote, I'm sorry to hear about McCoy's death, for he was a great fighter, but you'll have to excuse me if I can't say nice things about him.
He's kind of a dick.
Yeah, he's kind of an asshole here. He said one night, quote, he came into the ring that night with gloves on. Tommy O'Rourke, my manager, ordered the gloves removed. We found almost a half ton of plaster along with the heavy bandages. He put a lot of guys did. They put plaster in their gloves. Everybody did that back then. They put thumbtacks in their gloves to cut you. It's fucking crazy. Had the plaster stayed on McCoy, probably would have knocked me out for keeps. Do you wonder I didn't have exactly pleasant memories of McCoy? Then he said, McCoy was probably the hardest hitter in the fight game I ever knew outside of James J. Jeffries. They were betting 10-6 McCoy would beat me, and when the kid knocked me down in the first round, the ringside went wild, and the odds went from 10-3, and it was all over. He's talking about his fight with him. He also says about Sharky, all of his wives were beautiful and probably all well-to-do, though I didn't recollect their names at the present. It was women and fast living that finished him. He used to parade the Peacock Alley of the Waldorf Astoria with a bankroll that would choke a horse. He was always the dandy too. His word wasn't worth a dime though.
You're a dandy if you do.
Dandy if you do. And he was 66 years old. And they later discovered, going through his stuff, that he'd been working on an autobiography.
Oh, really?
Called Life Jabs Back.
Oh, not bad.
Interesting. 1958, Ringside Magazine, he's listed as the #1 light heavyweight of all time in the 50 years of Ringside Magazine.
Wow.
Yep, published in 58, and it was included in the Ring Magazine's list, this was in the last 20 years, of 100 greatest punchers of all time. In 1989, there was a terrible, looks like right straight to video movie called Brutal Glory made. It looks like it's like Bloodsport, though. It's weird. It's called, quote, the highly fictionalized making and breaking of Norman Selby, more recognizable as Kid McCoy, the real-life American middleweight boxing champion from turn of the 20th century.
Why do that? His story doesn't need to be fictionalized. It's fucking crazy enough.
Fucking crazy. Yeah, it's nuts. 1991, he was inducted into the World Boxing Council, WBC Hall of Fame.
You can't do that.
Hall of Famer?
You can't.
He should be in a...
He murdered his wife.
Oh, well, there's much worse people in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Are you kidding me? They've murdered lots of people. Plus, he got pardoned. That's the way they're looking at it. So they don't know what happened. They can go, we don't know what happened in 1924. See? I don't know. He says burial is in Whitechapel Memorial Park, Troy, Oakland County, Michigan. But then it says plot, ashes were picked up by the funeral director. So I don't know if he's there or not. Either way, can't get enough of him. Well, he's been dead for fucking 75 years, so you're going to have enough of him. But you can go watch one of those silent movies I told you about if you can't get enough of him. Yeah. Try to spot him in there, because that's it. You're not going to see him fighting. There is one movie of him fighting. I don't know if I can find it, but him and Corbett did a reenactment
of their
after
fight?
that.
Wow.
They had a camera crew come, a movie fucking camera crew come and film them do like a 10-round fight against each other, so they could show that in like newsreels before films, when silent films were shown. It's fucking crazy. That was like they were like the first people to do that. It was pretty interesting. So either way, there is Norman Selby, Charles Kid, Corkscrew Kid McCoy.
The real McCoy.
That's the real McCoy. That's a fucking story right there.
Sure is.
That is some shit, I got to tell you.
That's the one that I mean, that's what you want as a movie. That's amazing.
Yeah. I've been saving this story for so long because it's just fun.
What a story.
I needed when we needed something old-timey. We've been too modern lately. Let's get old-timey for one of these. So if you like that, tell everybody about it. Get on, and whatever app you're listening on, give us 5. I don't care if you do it or not, honestly, whatever. It helps if you do, but do what the fuck you want with your life. But definitely go to shutupandgivememurder.com if you want merchandise or if you want tickets to live shows. September 23rd, we are in Tampa at the Tampa Improv for 2 shows that night. These are small town murder shows, by the way. Right. Then the next night, we're in Orlando for 2 shows. That early show is sold out, I know, so late show on that one. Then the virtual live show, my God, October 27th, Halloween-themed murder shit, baby. That's right. It's going to be gross and creepy and weird, and we're going to have a cool Halloween set, and it's just like a live show. You want to go to a live show, but we're not in your city? Easy, or your country even? Yeah. This is exactly what a live show looks like. Laugh in your living room, I promise. You can do shit on there. Comment things. You can talk to other people while you do it if you want. It'll be available for 72 hours, or for 27, God damn it. It'll be available for 7 whole days. After it comes too. So if you buy it, you can have it the whole time, watch it as many times as you want, watch it that day, watch it 3 days later, doesn't matter. It's yours for a week. So do that. That is shutupandgivememurder.com or moment.co/smalltownmurder. Either one of those.
Get hammered with us.
Get hammered with us. Hell yeah. Patreon.com/crime and sports is where you get all of the extra bonus material, and we have so much good bonus stuff for you. It's not even funny. Bonus episodes every other week. You're going to get 2.
Funny, James.
It's
How
super
dare you?
Well, that's true. That is true. That is true. Every other week, you're going to get 2 new episodes, 1 crime and sports, 1 small town murder, and you get the whole back catalog and everything. Anybody $5 or above. Very easy. A cup of coffee will get you lots of funny episodes to binge. So this week, we're going to continue for crime and sports. We're going to close out sex scandals with part 3. Duke fuck list. We're going to finish that off.
Yep.
And then we're also going to do Ryan Giggs and his fucking his sister-in-law and writing poetry to that one chick that they talked about in court. Tony Parker and Brett Barry's wife and the whole deal. We'll talk about it all. Very interesting shit we'll get into. Fun stuff. So, listen to that. And then for Small Town Murder, we're going to talk about how it's a very strange combination, Venn diagram in the middle here of serial killers and mafia guys. They normally don't go together, but every once in a while, one of these guys who happens to be an Italian guy born into the right circumstances is in the mafia, happens to also be a serial killer too at the same time. Yeah. And they just love what they do. And lucky for them, they're in a business where they climb the ladder that way. They couldn't be more rewarded in that business. So we're going to talk about some of the sickest guys who were clearly serial killers and just love to dismember somebody in a bathtub in a social club basement. We'll talk all about those guys, and that is patreon.com/crime and sports, where you get all of that. Mm-hmm. And, of course, you're going to get a goddamn shout-out, which is going to come right now. Jimmy, hit me with the list of the people who would never, ever, 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 ever stab us 3 times and shoot us and then say that we killed ourselves. Hit me with that list.
This week's executive producers are Brianna Vandemart, Corporal Carl Kirshner, who was thankful to come to the Wisconsin show. That was nice of them. Thank you, Corporal Carl. JB and Yeti Shetty, Maria Wiedeker, and her cat Tofu had a 10th birthday. How about that?
Happy birthday,
10
Tofu.
Years.
Do me a favor. Lick your ass for me to celebrate.
Right now,
there you go.
Now. Justine McNeil, Carol Braun, happy birthday, and I'm a good now.
I'm a gooder now.
Other producers this week are Felicia Crystal Jordan, Megan Bethel, giving it both ways. Peyton Meadows, Frank the South African birdwatcher whore, also Frank the South African birdwatcher. Thomas Smith, Haystacks Calhoun, Jennifer White, and the Whites of West Virginia. Her husband's actually related to them. How insane is that?
Oh, my God.
Yeah. 50 Dawa Bill, happy birthday, Berta. Janice Hill, Cody Leversey is marrying Delaney. September 17th. Congratulations. September 17th. Remember, Cody is having sex tonight. Tanya Willis, Brooke Robinson, Cara Diaz, Casey Studs, Kyle Conway, Scott Peterson, probably not, Nick Vuato, Jesse Gullidge, John Bidgood, Amber with no last name, Marcy Rainey, James M. Astor, I think, or maybe it's Master. I capitalized a letter in the middle of that for no reason at all. Ireland with no last name, or the entire fucking country. Sharon Coates, Chad Palmer, GDRNG, Amy Strong, Danny Ray, Jacqueline Wilson, Taylor Dundas, Betsy LeClaire, Ellen Brennan, Tanya Uday, I think, Glenna with no last name, Steve Pickerel, Mackenzie Hopkins, Teresa Simpson, Richard S., Allison Glusky, Jessica C., April Shovik, Kelly Coiler Brown, Catherine with no last name, Kim Smith, Gradient Orion, Gail Sullivan, Katie Krosky, Jen Corney, Lisa Christensen, Jackie Gibson, Hannah Nunley, Craig Cozy, What's It To Ya, Taylor Snodgrass, Kyle Hansen, Catherine Owen, CC, Krista Bloomy, I may have mistyped that. Timothy Compton.
No.
I know. Chris Pavuk, Miles Nelson, Alexander Koch or Coach or Coke, Andrew Hines, Jane Murray, KC, Elsa Elder, Sarah Redfern, Melissa Allen, Perusity, Camden Thompson, Riley Corrales, Sue McKenzie, Kelly McKim, Sean McCluskey, Nosy Rosie, Anita Kochenauer, okay, RSRP, Rob Subkovic, Brian D., Jamie Kessler, Judy Gravenhorst, Haley with no last name, Brown Sugar, Kathleen Dooling, Chris Devlin, Ashley McGinnis, Aziz Nashat, Susan Simmons. Did I say that? Maybe not. Joseph Pickens, Jill King, Christy Spicer, Tanya Schuster, Ryan Booth, Christina Waldner, Jason Talton, okay, I'm going to do this a service. Obulia Tabares. I did a terrible disservice.
Yeah,
Ashley Govia, Lauren Edwards, Cody German, Bellified Bell, Haley Caddy, Jody Sutton, Hayden Freeman, Amy McDonald, Jessica Thompson, Roney with no last name, Shay Cotter Brown, Lisa LaChapelle, Jay Thompson, Dusty Schreiner, Justin McPherson, Brandy Williams, Vicky Williams, Andrew Webster, Ryan Baylor, Kay Foreman, Sarah Buchwald, Zach Young, Lee Henry, Narika Dennis, Austin Wenslick, Elisa, nope, that's Emily, Rasmussen, Sanan Kuparo, Carmen Harwood, Dashiel Cosataro, Castator, Patu with no last name.
You're crushing it.
I'm ruining it. That's for
no,
sure.
you're doing it. You're getting it hard. You're getting it.
Kevin Skelton, Luis Hurtado, Angela Weatherholtz, Jennifer Rocio, Jen John Tony, Jordan Perez, Dana Stairs, Deshaun Bruce, Matthew Miller, Joshua Fetterman, Jill Simon, Kerry Whipker, Cassie M, Don Kanakari, Creed Stapleton, Dominic Hance, 1212 Seedco, Doug Kreis, Ryan McGonigal, Mary Jo Warner, Dave Jones, John Protkapatek-Kaznik, Matthew Atchison, Jenna Gilles, Christopher, Charles Noyes, Daniel Shalinsky, that's no yes, Charles no yes, Bailey Rowland, Matthew Scott, Terry Bragg, Max Little, Victoria Galinda, Leah Yusufara, Jay Brown, Jody Carvala, oh, boy. Katita Gomez, Jeremiah Marila, Ben with no last name, Jason Christopher, Faith Moreland, Moan Moreland, Megan Johnson, Nicholas Vergara, Maritza Diaz, Aaron with no last name, Keith O'Brien, Sergio Salgado, Aaron with no last name, Amy Johnson, Jacob Anderson, Lindsay with no last name, Leanne Bretzik, Adrian Chafin, Brexit.
Breadstick or Brexit? Which one is it?
Christian Lee, Kara Bacon, Kathleen with no last name, Anissa Spagnola, Danielle with no last name, Found C, Dalton Foley, Keldon Erickson, James Malone, Ari, Troyoe, Onion Morph, Bob with no last name, Cosmic Explorer, Sarah Jones, Mike Newman, Christina Ricks, Paul S., Karen Spone, Josh with no last name, Darcy Eblin, Jamie Phelps, Kelly Anderson, Mark, nope, that's Mary, Cope, Austin Marcel, Jackie Anderson, Robert Bird, Emily with no last name, Sam Lures, Big Dick Daddy from Cincy, Darrell is his name, or Darrell. I believe him. Robert
Something
Patrick,
with a D and a big dick.
Arsenic Catnip, Rebecca Catuza, Al, you're the best, Al. Dave and the Lady Productions, Czar Zappy, Zach McCarty, and all of our patrons. You guys are fucking incredible. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, from the bottom of our broken, awful black hearts. We appreciate all that you do for us. You make our hearts swoon, actually. Thank you.
Yeah.
You want to follow the show on social media, very easy. We are at Crime and Sports on Twitter and Facebook, at Small Town Murder on Instagram. You want to follow us on social media, it's very easy. Go to shutupandgivememurder.com. There's links there to social media for everything.
Yes.
Or just Google Crime and Sports Podcast host. You can't miss us. We're the only ones. That said, thank you for listening and going back in time with us. We have had a lot of fun. And live from the Crime and Sports Studios, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
If you like crime and sports, you can listen early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.